Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Daisy Asks. Today we have Dita Asks as well, two Ds.
Hi, guys. It's
So,
Dieter. You know me from around. I'm around at
yeah.
Pops. I used to be around at Snays. Now I'm around at Daisy's.
Yeah, I'm your new fave.
Yes, and Diana, when she's around, I'm around
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So, Dee's a huge friend of the channel and so glad that you are willing to come and stream with me. It's nice to talk to someone else and not just always talk to myself. So, good to see you back again.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And we got Kelly in the chat. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Kelly.
Kelly's awesome. Kelly, you've got to hop on and chat with us soon too. I think Kelly's waiting for an Ethernet cable. I think she was saying she ordered one because Anna was on the show yesterday and they were struggling a little bit with the internet. So it'd be really good to get Kelly on though. Have you watched any of Kelly's videos, Dita?
I have, but I haven't chatted.
Okay. Well, Kelly's lovely.
I've commented on Anarch stuff and I've chatted with him. But I think Kelly, I've only said hello to.
Well, Kelly, if you want to hop on, have you got your Ethernet cable? If you want to hop on, I'm happy to share a link. We can be a whole group. Oh, it's arriving tomorrow. Okay. Well, you let me know when you're ready, and you can hop on. You're welcome anytime.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm doing lots of streaming this week because I am on holiday still, and it was I was boasting in a live chat earlier, and I've also boasted to UD that it was really warm, so warm that even my Indian skin burnt a little bit today in the sun. It was 42 degrees Celsius at its peak, so we spent the whole day at the pools. It was amazing. I loved it.
Is it humid too?
It wasn't today. It was like blistering hot sun. Like I had butter because we were having a picnic. I had butter and cheese, and the butter literally looked like it had gone through the microwave. It was like it was so melted. But yeah, we spent the whole day in the pool, so we kept nice and cool. But we've got the next 3 days. I think it's supposed to be this hot. Oh, hey Dom. Hey Carol. Nice to see you guys.
It's Dom.
Oh, Dom's lovely. I'm so glad to see you, Dom.
He is.
Hey, see-through.
I have to get Dom his white hat. He's always the good guy. Always.
He is, for sure. Well, lovely to see everybody. Thanks for joining again. Like I said, I am streaming a bit more this week. Hey, Mustang. Because I have a lot more free time, but I will be back to the clinic on Saturday. I've got a big therapy day. I don't know how my brain's going to handle that. Oh, hey, Anarch. Nice to see you.
Sees through.
I just got all the regulars in here.
Yay. We're the one.
The reason I wanted to stream today, and I've just sort of thrown this on Dee, I just mentioned it briefly to her before we came on. I was like, shall I stream today? I came across something because you know me, I'm always chewing away at documents and trying to find links and patterns. It's like my whole brain is like a matrix. It's like, I think someone the other day said it'd be like, I think it was Christopher. He was saying, oh, hey, Josh. Nice to see you. Oh, Diana, goodness. We are in good company today. We've got so many of our mods in here, so many of our friends here.
So many Ds.
I know. You know, D is actually one of like my favorite letters because of Daisy and Delilah, my two little spirit animals. So me and my boys, we always look out for number plates that say DD or DG, and because those are the initials, or DB, they're the initials of our pets because they all have like.
Very cool.
2 names, you know, we always like that. So yeah, important. Yeah, Diana, we've got D up here.
Diana, come up too.
Do you want to come up, Diana? You can come join us. We're talking about Ron Logan today. Not really. I'm just using Ron Logan as a launching pad to go back to my usual topic of Rick's phone. Everyone knows I love talking about phones. But yeah, Diana, if you want to come, I'll drop you the link. Let me know. Anyone else, if they want to come join us, they're welcome to. But what was I saying? I can't even remember what I was saying, guys. I go off on lots of different tangents. Dee, have you ever streamed before? Have you ever talked on anyone's channel before?
Never.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Snay and I were talking about that months ago, and he's like, nobody knows what you sound like. Like,
yeah,
that is true.
Yes, you got some wise ladies on here, Diana. You should join us. But yeah, Dee and I I think we've got pretty close in the last little while, haven't we?
Yes.
Which is lovely.
We have a good time.
Yeah, it's nice to have my buddy on the other side of the world to have a chat to. And
well, right now, my voice doesn't sound like it normally does because I have a cold.
Yeah, are you feeling a bit better today, Dee?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It's this chest thing, and it's coming. It's work. There's nothing in it. It's just kind of spasming.
Oh, that's no good.
That's getting better.
Oh, I'm glad you're on the mend.
Yeah.
So Josh is in here, but he can't. I don't think he can stream with us now. But Josh and I know I keep promising this. It's like I'm dangling Josh like as a carrot on a string. But Josh Low Light Recovery is going to join me, and we're gonna have a chat about this phone stuff because I know Josh is super excited about all my NELOS stuff too. So we'll get onto that too. So yeah, there's going to be lots more guests over the next little while. So yeah, everyone's welcome. Hey, Giuseppe. Okay, so let's launch in because I can just talk for hours. I'm a chatterbox, and I think you are too, Dee. Actually,
I'm not usually, but I really like talking to you.
Yeah, we kind of bounce off each other.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do today is I'm going to pull up the search warrant. I think it's a PCA search warrant. I'm always terrible with the legalities of this, but we're going to pull Ron Logan's one up. We're not going to read through it. I don't see Ron Logan as a key offender here in this case. He could be involved in some peripheral way, but to me, he's not the prime suspect. But I think that there's details in this warrant that back up my theories around Rick and his phone data. But before we go into that, Dee, what are your thoughts on Ron Logan?
I think he was the bridge guy in the video, but I don't think he was the perpetrator.
Yeah.
He might have led them away.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. He had knowledge.
Yeah.
But he didn't do it. If he didn't have knowledge, there would have been no reason for him to make up an alibi before he knew he needed an alibi.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I was reading the PCA, because I've never, like I said, never really looked into Ron Logan. I guess personally, like I don't know why, I just never really gravitated. I kind of didn't feel like he was. Well, I do know why, but I won't go into lots of deep explanations. But he was never like a key person on my radar, the way others are. And I never mentioned specifically who I think may be on my radar, but I think people can usually read between the lines. But I'd never really read it, but people kept talking about the phone pings, and I was like, well, that's the stuff I'm interested in. So I've looked at that again. I think, what we know about the Delphi community is that, like certain people have links with others, hence why I think this investigation went the way it did. So I wonder if potentially, Ron Logan knows something. And when you look at the fact that he got that alibi for that exact time between 2 and 2:30 or something like that. That was odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you have any theories? We are not alleging anyone did or didn't commit the crime. We're just speculating and it's just our own opinions. But do you have any theory of if Ron Logan is Bridge Guy, was he meant to be there? Do you think? Like, was he part of a plan?
No.
No. Okay.
So but I think, I think he's on. I think that's him on the video, and I think they did know him. But I've heard you say in the past that you think Libby and Abby sounded scared. I don't think they sounded scared. I think they sounded like they were caught doing something they shouldn't be.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's made it very clear in the past that he didn't want people on his land. They knew him. If they weren't supposed to be there meeting somebody else, maybe they were worried he would tell, oh yeah, I saw them there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I've heard that theory before, and I think it's, certainly one worth looking at as well, for sure. Are they a bit like, oh no, we're going to be in trouble because it's this guy,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you, so I mean, I think we've obviously talked about this before. I am starting to lean more and more towards there being young bridge guy and old bridge guy. I do actually think they may be two different people, and that's based on my feeling that Betsy Blair sees someone on platform one that looks like they're waiting for someone around the exact same time that the girls are sending this Snapchat video that nobody's ever spoken about, like in terms of the investigation. And I just kind of had this sense that that there's a lot of Snapchat activity between when the girls get permission that they can go to the trails, and they text Anna Williams, and the last the video snap is sent at 1:51, and after that the only Snapchat activity is more on the stories. So that's my sense, is that message is a private message, and it's in response to a notification. Now it could just be a friend that was snapping them, and they were chatting to, but again, it's kind of suspicious to me that nobody ever came forward and said, oh, I spoke to the girls while they were on the 501, and instead that's been something that's just completely been ignored. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it's because, like, in terms of Cecil, if he just didn't realize it, like, no offense to Cecil, but I just don't feel that the technical know-how was there. And that is really rich coming from me, who has no experience in digital forensics. But, I've done a lot of research, as everyone has seen through the lives. The reality is Cecil says things that don't actually match with what we know of how the knowledge C data should be interpreted. So I kind of take what he says with a pinch of salt. Perhaps he didn't realize that there was a Snapchat video.
Yeah. And at this point, it doesn't matter why he missed it. Or it doesn't. Yeah. That part's done and over now. No.
It's done. I mean, I don't tend to have a suspicious lens. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't tend to have a suspicious lens on Cecil. I mean, Andy Baldwin talks quite favorably about him. I just think he doesn't have a great understanding of some of the digital aspects. I mean, the fact that he doesn't understand some key things. He says that every time you use Snapchat, it gives a GPS coordinate. That's not true. It only does that if you are employing the camera with Snapchat or an app that requires location services. He doesn't seem to understand that the headphones in out, which I don't believe is headphones in out. I don't think anyone seems to have understood that. But in old versions of iOS, headphones in and out was not that number one integer that they see in the extraction. That only was the case from iOS 11 onwards. The fact that he doesn't seem to know for sure if the phone died or not. So there's a lot of stuff that I feel like he had a lot of context. Eldridge didn't have all the context. She only had what was given to her. But Cecil surely had access to a lot of contextual information that would have helped him to better understand that data. So again, no offense to him, but I don't really think he grasped everything. I mean, they couldn't explain why the 207 Snapchat isn't in cache. There were so many things they just couldn't explain. Yeah. It just feels like a very flattened analysis of the digital data.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel so silly, Dee, because I'm not trained in this, but I got so obsessed. And as anyone who has ADHD or autistic special interest probably understands, when you hyper focus on something, like you literally want to learn every tiny nuance of it. And I think I did that when it came to the knowledge C, which is why I kind of feel a little bit confident in saying I don't think that the digital forensic analysis was particularly good in this case.
Agree. And I don't know. I don't even know as much as he does, but I do know in hindsight that there were things that were not adequately explained.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it would be so good if we could actually get someone who's an expert in knowledge C to come on. I did reach out to a few online, but I don't think anyone wants to get caught up in a true crime community. And I get that, I understand that. But if anyone truly does have any comprehensive understanding of knowledge C and Snapchat and things like that, they should obviously reach out, and we'd definitely love to platform them and talk about what they know. But in the absence of that, I just always look for patterns, and there are certain patterns that we see in that data that even without lots of technical knowledge, you can kind of track and see. And anyway, I've gone off track. I love talking about the digital forensic stuff. I don't know why. It's just super interesting.
Well, you're very numbers and technology, and that's just how you think. I do not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's for me it's like it's a problem to be solved. And I was a little bit of a maths geek at school. So much so that actually as I went into my final year of high school, it was suggested that I study actuarial studies. I didn't even know what actuarial studies was at the time. I'm so glad that I didn't take that advice. So glad that in the meantime, my mental health kind of took a little bit of a fall, because that is what led me to psychology. But yeah, I loved maths. And even when I didn't need to study it, I wanted to study it. It's something interesting, and science as well. But yeah, patterns. I love trying to find patterns in data. That kind of, they call it like matrix reasoning, and we do it a lot in sort of like our cognitive testing. I love things like that.
I do it with words, but
yes,
numbers. It's almost like it's a language that I was never meant to speak.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? My sister's just like that, actually, Dee. Like, she is a words person. Like, she's an academic, a professor. She's like so good with words, but maths, it's quite funny because she's like the smartest person I know, but she is so terrible with numbers. Whereas, yeah, I still, my kids and I, like, particularly my little one, he's like, what's this plus this plus this plus this? And I can just do it in my head, and he can too. I like figuring out percentages. Like, gosh, the YouTube studio statistics, I just love it. I love looking at them and going, okay, so if my watch hours has gone up by 0.2 in 1 minute, how many people are viewing my video? And I get in my calculator app. I just love it.
You could give me a calculator. You could even tell me what to put into it, and I would get the wrong answer.
Okay, so let's get into what I'm talking about today. So anyone who caught, I think it was last week, I'm losing track of time. It's that time of the year where we completely lose track of time and day. But when I dropped the video, I think it would have been almost exactly a week and a day ago, because it wasn't New Year's Eve. I was talking about NELOS, and majority of people in my chat, all but one person, did not know what NELOS was. Did you know what NELOS was, Dee?
No.
No, don't worry, I didn't either. It was something that I figured out when we were looking at the Knowledge C data. I saw this NELOS report, which is Exhibit QQQ. It's Defense Exhibit QQQ. And I had never seen it before, but it was on Case by Case's channel. And I was like, oh, what's that exhibit? Let me understand that. And it was about Libby's phone. And basically what that exhibit shows is kind of rough location estimates. So NELOS doesn't, what's the word? Look, I can't tell you the technicalities of it. It's not sort of geofencing accurate, or GPS accurate like we see in Knowledge C, but it's also better than cell tower, which is basically just going to say, well, you pinged at the tower in this sector. So it can give you kind of a rough coordinate. That coordinate is not it's not like a dot on a map, but basically it has a range of variants. Now, they did it for Libby's phone. It wasn't super accurate. And this is where we've had some wild theories about her phone pinging all around town or at people's houses. You can't stretch it to that, because the variance measures were like within 2,500 meters, which of course is not giving you a very accurate estimate, right?
She was in Delphi that day.
Yeah. But the reason it wasn't accurate for Libby, to my understanding, is because of where she was located. So we only see the coordinates between around 2 and until the phone basically dies. And so at that point, she's on the Monon High Bridge and she's not using her phone very much, as we know, after 207, other than the bridge guy video, like taking that video. She's not using, she's not connecting and doing anything that requires, I guess, network stuff other than the background processes. And then she's in the depths of the wood and over the creek and at the crime scene and all of those things. So it's not super accurate with Libby. She's not moving a lot. It's a small area. It's not an area that's going to have the best network signal. So the accuracy ratings are really low for that. However, if you were to do a NELOS report on a you or I today, Dee, it would give you a rough idea of like whether we were moving, whether we were in a car, because usually the estimates are more accurate. They can usually be within a few hundred meters rather than, thousands of meters. And if we were to see a few hundred meters accuracy, that's going to be a lot more helpful. And so my theory is that potentially that's why they collected the IMEI, MEAD, hex details alongside phone numbers, because then back in 2017, that was actually quite a routine process using NELOS. They weren't using geofencing, as we talked about. In 2017, it was very rare. It didn't become commonplace till about 2018 and then beyond. And in fact, went up like exponentially from there. So they weren't using geofencing at that point, and cell tower or tower dumps wouldn't have given particularly useful advice. What's the word? Not advice. Estimates or information when it came to Delphi, because there really is one tower, the Wells Tower, that services the majority of Delphi, including the crime scene, where Richard Allen's house is, town, I think. And I think there's a second cell tower, but I don't think it really services very much of the town.
Okay.
So NELOS is, it uses a variation of information, and I'm not going to try and butcher it right now. I don't have that document up, but it doesn't just rely on cell tower information. And that's why it can have more accuracy. So sort of see it as an in-between. Geofencing, way more accurate generally, can get to within probably 10 meters or 30 meters. We've got GPS, like what we see on Knowledge C, that's super accurate too, to that kind of degree, or more likely to be. And then we've got tower dumps, which in Delphi would be useless, essentially, because it'd be like, Rick's phone pinged in Delphi. That doesn't mean he's guilty. It doesn't mean he's not guilty. We don't really know. So that's what NELOS is.
So it's almost like a target, and you're moving in closer. Each one. Okay.
Yeah. And so like every time you're engaging or your phone's engaging with the network, it's not a ping so much. I don't want to butcher it. I really wish we had an expert to talk about it, because I really don't fully understand it, but it's basically a little sort of breadcrumb trail of where the person is, but the range of variance can be so wide that if you plot Libby's one on Google Earth, it literally looks like she's bouncing around town. Okay. Whereas when you look at the GPS coordinates provided by the Knowledge C, you can see they map really well onto her movements that day. I know people have said otherwise, but if you actually look at the Knowledge C data and you map those GPS coordinates, which I've done before on Google Maps or Google Earth, literally when the 207 photos being taken, you can see that they're on the middle of the Monon High Bridge. When she's doing the bridge guy video, you can see she's on the south end of the bridge. So it's real, like GPS is quite accurate, within probably 30 meters, I think it is most of the time. But NELOS can vary dependent on whereabouts you are, dependent on how close you are, I think probably again to the tower, dependent on whether you're moving a lot, dependent on the distances you're traveling, dependent on how much you're using the phone. There's all of these different factors, I think, that weigh into it.
Okay. And you said, like, if it did it today, for you and I, they would be able to tell more accurately. But because of where she was, it wasn't very accurate. Is that because it was so rural, so wooded, so?
Yes. Yeah. And particularly because, what we see, I'm actually going to pull up the exhibit again because I think it's good to even look at it and see what it looks like for Libby. Let me just see if I can find it.
I was just going to say, I think you underestimate how rural an area I live in. I'm in the middle of cornfields.
Oh, right. Okay. There you go. I probably do. Yeah. There you go.
The nearest
okay. Well, maybe yours wouldn't be super accurate
like
either, particularly move around that.
What's
right.
that?
Okay.
Yeah,
well, there you go.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. Yeah. Whereas for me, yeah, I think NELOS would be pretty accurate. I don't live in like the center of a city, but it's still a suburban, metropolitan area. So I'm pretty sure if you got my NELOS information, you would see, that I drove to the pools, stayed at the pools for 4 hours in the sun, and then drove back through, of course, always through drive-through. We went through Hungry Jack's because they have my favorite ice cream at the moment. They do this ice cream sundae with Nutella, my favorite thing in the world.
My kids like that.
I love Nutella. I'm an addict. So yeah, so that's what it would tell. It would tell anyone that yes, I did my usual junk food stop along the way. Now I can't find this document. Give me one sec. My computer has been mucking up, so I'm hoping it's not deleted this document because it's hard to find these. You've got to keep kind of searching for this stuff. So once I find it, I like to try and save it in one place. Here we go. I found it. Okay. So I just now got to somehow get it on my screen. So sorry, guys, we've just dived straight into like super technical stuff. I haven't even said hello to most of the people in the chat. So apologies, guys. Hey, Jenny, lovely to see you again. Jenny and we were always in the same chat together. I really like Jenny. She thinks like I think she thinks quite similarly to you and ID. Yeah, good critical thinker there. Okay. Now, I'm just trying to get this on the screen, and I don't know why it's not showing. StreamYard is annoying sometimes. Usually works. Sorry, guys. Apologies. Oh, here we go. It was filtered out. That's why. I'm going to pull it up, and then we can have a proper look at it. Oh, invalid file type. That's annoying. It wasn't invalid before. I don't know why it is now. Okay, let's try share screen. I'm going to just stop the screen I'm sharing and try and share this one instead. I hate technical issues like this. Here we go. Okay, I can do it this way. Okay, here we go. Finally got it. Okay, can you see it on the screen? Oh, hey, Dave. Nice to see you again. Can you see it on the screen now, Dee?
I can see it.
Yeah, so that is the NELOS exhibit that we have for Libby's phone. Okay, but notice, so the times are in GMT time, which is really important to recognize here. So this isn't 7:05 to 9:33 a.m. It's actually 2:05, and this is 4:33 a.m. So first of all, this document fits really well with the cold shock theory, the idea that the phone dies at here at 5:44 or 5:45, and it has one last ditch attempt to ping when it potentially the lithium ion battery stabilizes and tries to kind of reconnect one last time and reboot at 4:33. So it maps on really well to the knowledge C data in that sense. But these here, the longitude latitude accuracy, are really poor. You can see we're getting up to like 10 kilometers of accuracy for some of them. Okay, so this is not going to give you really good information about Libby's movements, right? And this, I think, is where these ideas of pinging around town or pinging at someone's house come from. A couple of reasons that people misinterpret this is because they don't change the time to Delphi time. And so then it looks like, well, it's pinging at 7 o'clock in the evening. Where is it pinging? No, it's not pinging at 7 o'clock in the evening. It's pinging at 2:05, which is around the time that they're taking photos, right? Up to 2:07. And then notice between 2:08 and 2:15, it's pretty dead.
Yeah.
They're not really doing much. And then you see these kind of little snippets here and there until about you've got very few occurring suddenly, which would be kind of mapping onto when perhaps the phone is impacted by cold and also when the girls are being attacked. So you can see there's not much going on in the evening there. So it can't give us very good location data, but it definitely can be helpful in understanding that the phone most likely is malfunctioning or not very accurate here. You can see the location accuracy drops. You can see the fact that we don't get any pings then for an extended period, which is very consistent with the idea that the phone dies at 5:44, which maps onto screen on and offs and all of that, and that's going down that other rabbit hole of the knowledge C data. Now, why would this be different for Rick? Well, Rick wasn't just on the trails. So what I'd love to see is if there's multiple pages of this. I'm imagining there are. This is page 1. And as usual, we've only got a limited amount of data from 2:05 to when the phone dies. If we had earlier data when the girls were actually on their way between the Paddy's home and the trails, we might have seen that the location accuracy data might have been better. Perhaps not, though, because I think they came through rural back roads. Now, Rick, if he were traveling to the trails that day, which we know he would be going through town, and he would be driving much closer to the Wells Tower. And when you're driving much closer to the tower, the accuracy here, I believe, I could be wrong, but I do believe that's the research I've done, would be much better.
It would seem logical.
Makes sense, right? Yeah. So I guess what I'm getting at here is this data, whilst it doesn't give a whole heap of info for Libby, and it may not give great coordinates even for Rick, if you combine this with the CDR reports about which we know that they could get for each person, if you put them together, you'd be able to see what his activity was on his phone. Was he texting? Was he calling? Was he browsing? And also you could map it up with this, and it would probably show, again, a behavioral kind of sense of what this guy's doing. So if location seems to be wildly jumping around, but the accuracy is better, then that would be more consistent with him driving through town towards home. Or, it could show, basically, I don't know fully how to interpret this, but someone who has digital forensic experience would know. And the reason I now believe, again, that they were doing this, that the FBI were doing this, is because of Ron Logan's PCA. So we're going to look at that in a minute and discuss why. But it's out tracking so far, Dee?
Yes.
Sorry. I get really technical, and sometimes I listen to myself and I'm like, this just feels like a lecture, and I don't want it to be like that. So I hope it still feels accessible.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's get this off for now, and we're going to get the probable cause affidavit back on. Oh, wait a minute. It'd help if I press the right thing. And thanks to the mods all saying to hit like and subscribe. Really appreciate you guys. Sorry, I'm not following the chat super much. Are you, Dee? Are you looking at the chat?
No.
I'm not really looking at it. Sorry, guys. We will come back to the chat. I just want to get the main kind of thesis out, and then we can chat about it. Okay, Ron Logan. Here we go. So remember, guys, we're not talking about whether Ron Logan is suspicious or not necessarily today. We've kind of done that little bit at the beginning, but what we're talking about is the phone info from Ron Logan. So a few people kept referring me to this, Dee, when I talk about geofencing and stuff, and they were like, well, they obviously had phone data on Ron Logan. And I was like, oh, yeah, they must do. Let's have a look and let's see what they had. And I'm going to go down to the specific point. And you've probably heard of this before, where they say that the phone pinged near the crime scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all heard that said. So I was like, okay, well, what did they mean by that? So let me see if I can find the space in here. Okay, I think it's coming up now. Okay. No, that's not it. So we're just skimming through a lot of this other stuff that's about some of the things that make him look guilty. And okay, so we know obviously the tower data shows Logan's cell phone was in Delphi area. Well, okay, that's not super helpful because you'd kind of expect that because he lives there. But when they're talking about the cell tower data shows Logan's cell phone appears to be in or around his property, that to be able to get specifics around his location, you cannot get that from tower dumps. Okay, particularly not in Delphi, because there's no triangulation possible. So there's no way that a cell tower dump alone would provide this information, which is again a clue that they're using NELOS because they're not using geofencing yet in 2017.
Well, it's almost exactly what that last report said about Libby's phone. The accuracy unknown or locate, something like that, unconfirmed. Like that's almost it right there.
Yeah. Now the reason, so let's build on this because then later on, this is the one that people always kind of cite. An analysis of Logan's cell phone data revealed a text message received by his phone at 10:16 p.m. on February 13th. Initial exam of this analysis indicates Logan's phone was likely outside of his residence in the proximity of where Libby and Abby's bodies were located. Now, again, they could not determine that based on cell tower reports. They could make that assumption based on a NELOS type report, but that's also why they qualify it with likely and possibly. They can't say with certainty because it's not pinpoint accuracy.
Right.
But essentially, there's no other cell phone data that they could be using to be even asserting this idea that his phone was inside or outside of his house. Tower dumps will not give you that information. There is no capacity to understand coordinates from a tower dump. But NELOS, as we've just seen with Libby's NELOS, the report on Libby's phone, NELOS can provide information about rough coordinates. Now, the accuracy on Libby's report was terrible, but we don't know. The accuracy on Logan's might be different because his house may have different coverage, obviously, to being in the middle of the woods, in a ravine near the creek. All of those things are going to make a difference too. The more rural, the more kind of, it's all a rural area, but the more deep you are in the woods and, down hills, the more likely it is that accuracy is going to be poor. And on top of that, Libby's phone, we know something's going on with Libby's phone in terms of her battery. She's not using her phone because unfortunately she's incapacitated. Whereas Ron Logan, presumably his phone would be normal functioning, right? Like it's probably got enough charge on it. It's probably, he may be using it to do stuff as most of us do. So it's going to have probably a better degree of accuracy in terms of NELOS than Libby's phone would.
Right.
Yeah. So there's another one as well. I think there's another text or call. I think it's this one. Text message sent from his phone indicates Logan's phone was likely outside his residence. Now, the only other thing that can give you more accurate location data than NELOS back in 2017, the only other things would be geofencing. Again, we don't believe that was employed that early in the investigation and certainly not within the first couple of weeks. This is dated March of 2017. So that would be very quick to get geofencing data as far as I'm aware. And then the only other way you could get more accurate coordinates would be if you had a Celebrite type extraction. However, this document is asking to do a search warrant and to obtain his digital devices. So at this point, as far as I'm aware, they don't have his cell phone. But they could. I don't know. It says analysis of his cell phone data, but it doesn't seem like they've done an extraction if they're requesting as part of the search warrant to have his phone. Does that make sense?
Yes. Having his cell phone data sounds like they had his phone in their hands, and they went through his text messages and looked at the times. It doesn't sound like they've got a full report.
Well, I think the thing is, though, then they couldn't tell you locations unless, I mean, like, I don't know. Is there a way to look at a text stuff? There is sometimes, actually. You're right. There is a way, isn't there? I'm just looking at my phone right now. I mean, obviously, we're a totally different year. Does it tell you where you sent a message? No, I don't think it does. So I think so with a NELOS report, you can get that within a few hours. And the one that we just looked at for Libby was dated the 20th of February. So they're really, they can be really quick with this. They can get expedited kind of access to this sort of stuff. It doesn't take a long time. And so, and once they've obtained some cell phone information, as in like IMEI identifier, things like that, they're allowed to do that without getting the permission of the person who owns the phone. So long story short, if police ever question you and ask to get your IMEI number, if you give it to them, then they can go and they can, behind your back, go and get access. You know, obviously they still need to go through processes and, you know, warrants and things like that. But even then, in a murder investigation, that can sometimes be expedited.
Right.
Interesting, right?
And right, yeah. And they might not have to ask anybody but the phone. Like, if a murder happened in my neighborhood and the police wanted my phone, I'd be like, here, take it. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily, no, come back with a warrant.
Yep. Yeah.
Why would I want to slow up an investigation?
Well, yeah, exactly. Most of us wouldn't. And also most people in 2017 would not have assumed that, you know, that such precise information could be obtained. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have known that. You know, you kind of think, oh well, if I turn, you know, if I delete a message, like I used to believe that. I'm sure a lot of people do, and we know a lot of criminals believe that. If I delete the messages, they don't exist, or if I use a encrypted, you know, service, I'll be okay. And so, yeah, I think with this, it's hard to know what they had from Ron Logan, but based on what we know they asked Rick for, I wonder if they did the very same thing. They were like, okay, give us your phone, hand it over, have a brief look, pull out the battery, get the IMEI. And then when you've got that, you can get CDR reports and you can get NELOS reports within a matter of hours.
Okay.
So just the precision in terms of like where they're saying that he was located during these particular text messages suggests that they have to have something more than just a tower dump on his phone, his cell records, or even just a brief look at his phone. The only thing that I can determine, I could be wrong here, I've just literally just looked into this in the last like hour or so, the only thing that would give that sort of precision in terms of location estimate would be either a full extraction of the phone, which they wouldn't have done at that point because they didn't have the phone, because that's what they're requesting in this particular document, or it would be NELOS, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read this out. This is about NELOS. So in this scenario, the information would most likely come from NELOS or a similar high precision location data set rather than standard CDR, which is called detail records. So NELOS is that's a hard word to say, proprietary system used specifically by AT&T, but other carriers have similar systems. And how it works is it uses timing advance and other network measurements to estimate where a device is in relation to towers. Now, again, it's going to be more accurate if there's multiple towers. But unlike a call detail record, which is the usual thing that you could pull on a phone, that just shows you which tower was used. NELOS can provide a best estimate latitude and longitude point with an accuracy radius. And so, yeah, and law enforcement can absolutely access them. So I think we have the CDR information for Libby's phone too, and that's kind of just showing that the phone's pinging at the Wells Tower. It doesn't tell you anything more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, what are you thinking, Dee?
I'm just trying to lay down the tracks in my brain.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'll read a little bit more out of this. It says, Law enforcement often presents NELOS data as historical GPS, but it's important to note it does not use the phone's GPS chip. It's a network-based calculation. So it is a calculation. It is not an exact coordinate, but it can definitely give you a kind of estimate. It's like an estimated GPS-like coordinate, and it can have high precision within 300 meters in a good condition. That said, I think that they would have been reaching here with Ron Logan because I'm assuming the crime scene, I don't know what the distance is between the crime scene and Logan's actual residence. I don't know. Does anyone know that?
I don't.
I haven't tried to figure that out. Let's see if I can find it anywhere, but I don't know. I might have to come back to you guys on that. We can look it up. But yeah, so I don't fully know if it could be accuracy. I do think there's a bit of reaching going on there to get this search warrant signed. And I think interestingly, this search warrant was approved. And so they obviously at some point did get access to Ron Logan's cell phone. Whether they did a full extraction, I don't know. I can never really follow what they did or didn't do. So yeah, I don't know if I know. We've got lots of talk about Holman in the chat. I can see everyone's talking about Holman as usual.
He's a hot topic.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say he's hot. I was like, oh, we were talking about our true crime crushes yesterday, Dee. Jerry Holman.
No, thank you.
No, I don't think most of us would be listing any of the ISP or any of the people involved in this case because, yeah, it's hard to have a crush on people who don't do the right thing.
He's always gives off the impression that he's trying too hard to come across like, it's not important to me. I don't care. Like, yes, you do.
Exactly. So, guys, I know all this NELOS and phone stuff is quite technical, and I struggle to explain it because I'm not, I understand the gist of this stuff, but the technicalities are tricky. But I think this is the stuff that I want to keep drilling down on because I do think it still leans back towards they took Rick's IMEI. Well, he didn't have any IMEI, but a meat hex, same thing, not really different, just the type of phone that he had for a reason. They did not do that with Cheyenne Mill. They didn't take every person's phone identifiers. I think that the people who they did this phone identifier BMV printout on were the people that they intended to follow up.
Makes sense.
And they didn't need to follow Cheyenne Mill up because clearly they didn't think that a female was involved. They didn't even test female DNA and hairs and things like that. So, they were looking for bridge guy. They were looking for a man. And so I think that that's why Doolan, did do the kind of slightly more detailed work. And I'm not suggesting, I know some people like to twist what I say as though I'm saying, well, Dan Doolan did a wonderful job then. All I'm saying when I'm saying that Dan Doolan, did a little bit more than what we expect them to do is to say, well, he did what he should have done in that regard. I'm not saying he did what he should have done in every regard. I don't know what he did besides that. But yeah, taking that information from the phone was important. And it should have been done for any individual on the trails that day in that time frame. Yeah.
Do you know what I don't get? There are all these people out there. How many, especially teenagers, aren't taking pictures? Where are all the pictures?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as well because I don't believe Dave McCain ever got his little memory card back. I remember that being something that was mentioned. We're not seeing all of the digital evidence for sure. And I think it's hard to know whether it's, again, ridiculous error because of incompetency or whether there's a deliberateness to it. I lean more towards the second conclusion because I just think how much error can we kind of explain away?
Yeah.
Kelly's asking, was Ron Logan's phone at the fish store? Like his alibi said. Look, all we've ever heard is I think that there's a time-stamped receipt from the fish store. My sense here, though, is if they took Ron Logan's phone as part of this search warrant, this was the FBI agent, then realistically, you would expect then that if anything else came out with his phone indicating, where he was that day, you would assume that would come to light. But then again, this is Delphi, so who knows? I mean, it probably got recorded over, deleted, stamped on, put in a bonfire. Like who knows? But you'd expect that, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So they had the capacity to do more detailed phone analysis once this search warrant was enacted. It's a signed search warrant, so it was enacted. We know that there was a search warrant, search done on Logan's property. So what was the outcome of the analysis of his digital devices? We don't know. I mean, we don't know the outcome of the extractions on anyone else's devices other than Libby's, right? Because they did look at Logan Holder's phone, Brad Holder's phone, I believe, obviously Kelsey's phone. They obviously looked at lots of other phones, but we don't have the data on all of those. And my impression then is that nothing particularly significant showed up, but who knows? Because again, this is Delphi.
Right.
So yeah,
it's evidence that could have been evidence. It was just all messed up from the very beginning. I don't even think there was any nefarious intent to it. I think they just were not that good at it.
Yeah.
If Ron Logan had anything to do with it, when he died, would have been an excellent time to blame him.
Exactly. That's my sense too. I mean, we know it seems very likely that they needed somebody in 2022, with the election coming up, that seemed allegedly to be a pretty good rationale for why there was a sudden rush on. And yeah, exactly. You've got a scapegoat there. But why did they not use him as a scapegoat? What's your theory on that, Dee?
I don't know. To me, that would have been the perfect opportunity. I don't understand, but so maybe they really believe Rick was the guy. I don't know.
I'm much more suspicious, I think, of this law enforcement team. And I wasn't initially. I always sort of say, I came into when people go conspiracy, police corruption, I'm like, no, that just sounds like people just wanting drama, right? And then it wasn't until this case where I was like, oh my goodness, wow, look what happens. And then obviously did some more research and recognized that actually this happens more often than you would want to believe, right?
I do believe there's police corruption. And I believe that if they had any evidence, any documentation, any cell phone data that could have put Ron Logan there, the moment he died, they would have pulled that out. So I don't think they had nothing that they could use.
So this is all my speculation. Definitely get a caveat it with that. I think I've always wondered if this is one of those crimes where there is one key offender. There are people, it's like layers of an onion. And so there's a key offender who I believe is a sadistic psychopath, probably. And that person has a lot of power and control over a whole lot of other people. Some people who think it's cool to be engaged in this horrible crime, and then some people who probably didn't necessarily want to be engaged in this crime, but that person and that group had information about them. So they couldn't actually not back up the story. So I kind of think if, like, let's say Ron Logan has some other deal. I'm just going to make up a person. I always use Big Bird. So Big Bird is the sadistic offender. Sorry, Big Bird, don't sue me. Big Bird is the sadistic offender, and Big Bird's got his friends Elmo and Oscar the Grouch, right? Who they're not key sadists themselves. This is a bit like the Homolka stuff that we've talked about before as well. Like I kind of think you've got Paul Bernardo and then you've got Carl Homolka. She's not she wouldn't probably have engaged in those crimes if it were just her, but she still has enough propensity to engage in it. So I think that they're the kind of central onion core parts, I suppose. And then around that, you've got more and more peripheral characters. So Big Bird has some sort of control and power over, and so is able to coerce them. Well, you know what? If you dob me into the police, they found the bodies on your land, and I planted something that will implicate you, maybe the bullet, things like that. Or, oh, I've left the phone at the scene, so you were talking to the girls. So guess what? They're going to find you on the phone and then they'll get you. But I'll protect you if you stick by my story. It's very twisted. I don't know.
Well,
maybe
potentially. Who knows? There was so much bad investigating right out of the gate. Could be.
Yeah. And I mean, Kelly's point is definitely reasonable here too. Like, did Ron Logan know the bodies were there? Maybe he stumbled across them and saw them, that evening, and then panicked and thought, people are going to blame me for this because I don't have the best track record, and so I need to try and distance myself from this. Hence the alibi and stuff. Potentially, I think that's possible. I don't think that this phone evidence here is particularly relevant in terms of like Ron Logan's guilt, because I think that they've overstated the accuracy of these coordinates. But I do think that that it's important in a sense that I think it shows that law enforcement were using digital analysis like NELOS in the early stages, not just for the victims, but also for people of interest. So yeah, I think for me, either Ron Logan is worried people will blame him, that he's got nothing to do with it, or he's been somewhat coerced by more powerful, sadistic, violent people and blackmailed into doing it. Because it's like, so yeah, again, using my Big Bird scenario, Big Bird has deliberately left a bit of red fur at the scene. So Elmo,
yeah,
if you don't back up the story, then we'll make sure that someone knows that red fur is buried under the body or something. I mean, that's a very obvious example. It's a bit silly, but you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's my theory around people like Ron Logan, and there are others as well who I think are implicated. I don't believe that they are the actual offender. I think some of them may not even have known this was happening. Maybe they knew after the fact and they got blackmailed into keeping quiet. I don't know. I don't like to believe that there's multiple sadistic people. There's lots of people who can do bad things, yes, but I don't think that it would be likely that there's a whole group of sadists together.
Me neither. And I think there was a lot of drugs there, and I think drugs can often make non-sadistic people do terrible things.
Exactly. And then obviously we know that there's CSAM stuff as well. There's basically like networks, and I don't know which network it is that's that's kind of got power here, but I do think the offender has power over multiple people in that area, and I think he has power over certain law enforcement too. And I think they, and again, I know this is a big claim, but I do feel as though it's not just simply mistakes. I think at some point there are people who are deliberately covering up for this particular person or people.
Definitely which is possible.
Again, bold claim, and I know it goes really heavily into conspiratorial territory, but it's the only way it kind of makes sense to me. I think the amount of errors that we have to believe.
Yeah.
There's just too much calculatedness about calculatedness, not really a good word, but it just feels too calculated otherwise.
Yep. And it took too long.
Yeah.
They had everything they needed. He never left town. He didn't move away. They didn't have to find him. No. They had everything they needed. That's what makes that lost tip so important.
Mm-hmm.
They had to find that lost tip.
And I think it's so interesting, isn't it? Because that lost tip, like even if you focus on nothing else about this case,
right?
that
That
lost
was
tip
terrible
story.
work.
I literally explained it to my son today. Again, I was talking to you about this earlier before we went live, and I was saying, like, I can explain this to my kids, and they're not old, they're not teenagers, they're younger than teenagers, and I was like, essentially, what this old lady did, is that she it's like we bought a new car in January of last year, and it's like I go out onto my driveway and I go, wow, look, I found this amazing new car. And it's like, yeah, but you've got a receipt. You bought that car last year. Oh, no, I forgot. But it doesn't even get to the point of no, I forgot. It's like, there's just no reference to it. Okay, the car's probably a silly example because obviously you drive a car every day. Okay, let's say I go out and I buy, I don't know, a new coffee machine, and then I don't use it. It's in my garage. And then I find it. I go, oh, wow, that coffee machine. But I didn't forget that I bought the coffee machine.
Right.
And it's provably a false it's provably false that that the first time she ever heard of Richard Allen was in 2022, because there's a printout with her own name on it in 2019. And we know that the absurdity goes beyond that in terms of the lost tip narrative. But yeah, I just feel like it's just, there's so much calculation there, Dee. And I mean, that's what I was getting at in the lost tip fairy tale story the other day. It was just that, like, if you're willing as law enforcement to admit to such incompetency that, you let the real offender be out on the streets for 5.5 years, but then Doug Carter gets up and, basically goes, Jerry Holman is amazing.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. Like, because gosh, I mean, if I lost something for 5 years in my little clinic and then I found it, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be getting, Psychologist of the Year award.
And he was so dramatic about that statement.
Exactly.
He is not a liar. I would walk on hot glass or whatever it was he said. Like, nobody says that for no good reason.
No, because it wasn't like they uncovered something that was just so masterful. No, they uncovered their own, apparently, according to them, their own ridiculous mistake and incompetency. So, like, yeah, okay, you fixed it in the end, but you stuffed it up in the first place. It's like, like how does that end up being something that deserves accolades? And why is there no formal investigation into, how they deal with homicide investigations? Because, my understanding, very limited, however, but is that if there's a man putting himself on the trails that day, even if you think he's the sweetest person, even if you think he's Big Bird, you still got to make sure that you've checked him out. There's no excuse.
Right. You should have a boss who says, show me all the boxes are ticked. Show me.
Exactly.
Because I have a boss too that I'm going to have to explain this to.
Exactly. It's not something that can slip through the cracks. It's not like, oh, well, Dee called up my clinic yesterday and left a message and we just forgot about Dee. Well, that can happen because it's not life or death, but even then, if you called back my clinic a week later and said, I spoke to the receptionist, I gave my name and they didn't give me an appointment, I'm going to tell you that receptionist is going to get in trouble at our clinic. Yeah. It's going to be like, well, I'm sorry, but you, like, a client called and you didn't even bother to follow it up. We'd be in trouble. And this is, like, I'm talking about, like, such a minor situation in comparison to this. So Rick was the only man that put himself on the trails in that earlier window. There is no way that you just meet Rick and go, oh, he's a nice guy, he didn't do it. And I know that's what people who think Rick's guilty think about me. They're like, oh, you think he's a nice person, so he didn't do it, which is so flattening psychological analysis of Rick. That's not why I think he didn't do it, because I think Ted Bundy seems like a nice guy when you don't know that he's a terrible serial killer. It's not based on being a nice guy. I don't care if Rick presented the same way as he does now. I would, of course, still want to investigate him prior to saying, oh, he's innocent, which is exactly what a lot of us have done. I'm guessing you're like me, Dee. You didn't just go, oh, I think Rick Allen's innocent, so I'm going to advocate for him.
Right. I didn't have a personal opinion about Rick at all.
No.
Until I had a personal opinion about his wife.
Yeah.
And there was no way I could believe she would love a terrible person.
Yeah.
So then I had to look at him. Okay, if this seems impossible, now I have to look at why he's been found guilty or why he was even arrested in the first place.
Yep. Yep. And, I've talked people through my process. I've been, the thing is I get kind of mocked by both sides. The people who believe Rick's guilty think I'm biased towards Rick. The people who think Rick's innocent think, how dare I have ever flip-flopped in the early stages and not been 100% sure of his innocence from day one? Well, because that's not how you investigate people, is it, really? Like,
no.
You shouldn't make assumptions. If somebody now tells me D, has been charged with the murder of someone, as much as I like you, D, I can't just automatically assume you're not guilty. But I would be like, I highly doubt it. She seems really lovely. Like, I've talked to her a lot. She doesn't really kind of fit the mold, but let me look at the evidence as well, right?
Right. Because who knows? Maybe I flipped out. You don't.
Exactly.
If I were you, I'd start with my children. Ask them what they think.
Right. Exactly.
They
You collect
here,
collateral information.
Yeah.
And interesting point as well, because there are a few points I wanted to kind of circle back to from yesterday. And OD, you went in the live, but you have listened to on the replay.
Yeah.
One of the points that came up was like, good people can do bad things, bad people can do good things and whatever, or cannot do bad things. And yes, in essence, that's true. But again, we're flattening it. Good people can kill. I agree. So if somebody told me Rick Allen killed his wife because she was having an affair, I'd be like, well, that's not a very good thing to do. I don't like that, but that doesn't mean he's a sadistic psychopath.
Right. That's a heat of the moment thing.
Right. But this crime is not something a good person can do. I'm sorry. Like, a good person doesn't torture, like doesn't make two young girls go into the woods over a freezing cold creek, strip one of them, kill them in a way that is painful, and then stage their bodies. No good person does that. And Rick says this himself, I think, to Jerry Holman. It's a ridiculous statement to make. So no, whoever did this is a sadistic individual, is not someone. I mean, look, I'm never going to say anyone's all bad and evil, but to be honest, this is the closest to evil you can get.
Right.
So I don't agree with good people can do bad things like this. They can't. And what I refer to when I talk about Rick being a forensic unicorn is base rates and statistics. What we know is that people who have similar attributes to Rick when it comes to demographics, but also personality, psychological history, relationship history, just so much. There's so much information about him that we do have. It doesn't take us having every interview of every person, just his age, his long-term marriage and long-term employment and long-term psychiatric history tells us quite a lot about him.
Right.
And this is not me just saying, well, I think he's a nice person because I like him. It's literally saying we have to believe that he's a sadist who does not tick any of the boxes of sadism and has never ticked those boxes, but except on February 13th, 2017. And again, see, the next point people will say is, well, you don't know because you've never met him. And I made a little bit of a joke yesterday, but in essence, it's the same argument. Well, you don't know that my dogs can't speak French. But it's pretty absurd to claim that they speak French, isn't it?
Right. I would say our cats don't speak French, but if they were living in in a home where all we spoke was French, and I said, come here in French, yeah, they would understand that, but they don't speak it.
No, but this is the thing. So people say, well, if there is the absence of evidence is evidence, and it can be, but not in this case. So when people say, well, you don't know what Rick is capable of, it's like, yeah, but for 3 years, his name has been in the media. He comes from a small town. He's worked at, a few different workplaces. We have, there are people who have relationships with him, and not one person has ever said, other than the anonymous person who went to his house to have a barbecue, even though she thought he was creepy. Nobody has actually, no verified person has come forward to say there was leakage. Russell Williams, they found documented photographs of and possessions of his that absolutely indicated that he was the offender of the crimes that he committed.
Right.
BTK, same thing. So these are the most, I mean, again, I hate using the word sophisticated, but these are the most sophisticated offenders historically. They're people who do get away with things and live in plain sight, and yet there is still leakage. There has never been an offender who it was like, I'm so blindsided. There was nothing that ever told us this person had anything within them that could be, even closely related to what we call the dark tetrad. But Rick doesn't. He doesn't even have narcissistic traits.
Right. And even if he never showed anything before, would he not be somewhat affected afterwards? And people thought, well, that's a change in his behavior. That's pretty extreme.
Yep.
What's going on?
So a sadistic offender doesn't also then, when incarcerated, decompensate into this guilty, psychotic kind of scrupulosity that we see in Rick either. What they do is, if you want to watch, interviews with Ted Bundy or Charles Manson, is they either become a spectacle or they quietly accept their fate and they just don't give a damn because they are psychopathic, right? And they don't feel a lot. They don't compensate in jail.
If they don't get caught, they do it again.
Exactly. They don't go, oh, well, I'm so lucky I didn't get caught, so I'm one and done sadistic offender.
Right.
That was so fun, and I can just live off that for the rest of my life now. I never did it before, and now I'll never do it again. I don't have any evidence of any sort of deviant material on any of my phones, and just the one phone that's missing must have had all of that. You just don't have a sadistic era. There is no sadistic era of your life. Taylor Swift has never written a song on her folklore album about the sadist. Okay, like there is no sadistic era. Like, I know I'm mocking it, but it's ridiculous. It is actually not just ridiculous because of common sense. We're talking about statistics. We're talking about history. We have so much documented history of crime, and there is no offender like Rick.
And even when he was threatening to hurt anybody, it was himself.
Yep. So exactly. And, when people then will pull out little kind of snippets like, well, Kathy said, he came in with bruised knuckles. Well, yeah, that's self-harm. He hurt himself. He wasn't perpetrating that on someone else. When I've been very frustrated and depressed and struggled, I've been known to throw my phone and nearly smash it. Not at someone. The only person I'm going to damage is my phone and myself because I'm going to have to buy another phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, RC says, I do think the offenders peaked in their sadism with these murders. Perhaps, but what if they are in prison now? What if they've been in prison since shortly after?
Yep. And look, I think, so when I was sort of joking before about this one and done sadistic murder, look, I think that there could be people where, they do engage in this one crime. Well, not this one crime, this one particular murder. It doesn't, but they potentially be doing other things. They potentially be doing, they would have had other escalation behaviors. They're possibly engaging in sadistic tendencies in other aspects of their life.
Right.
In their personal relationships, in the type of material they consume online. And interestingly, Dee, I know we've talked about this before, and it comes up in the Ron Logan document, the one clothing item missing from the scene. And this was confirmed to me as well, because how we talked about that there's one set of underwear, I think it's Libby's, and potentially a pair of socks. But no, I actually think that Abby wasn't wearing socks. She was still wearing her shoes, and the two socks found were Libby's. So the one thing missing, it says one item missing, it's redacted in this document, is the underwear. And that is such a common trophy, right? So maybe that person is still sniffing that underwear or doing whatever gross stuff they do with that underwear. But guess what? That underwear wasn't found at Rick Allen's home, and he wasn't tipped off by the police. The search warrant was enacted out of the blue the day that they pulled him into the police station. He didn't have time to dispose of his little trophies that he might have had. The best trophy they could try and pretend to pin on him was this ridiculous bullet story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to know. I'm I guess I don't want to sort of say that there couldn't be someone who would only murder once, but they wouldn't only engage in sadism once. You don't have a period of sadism. Sadistic profile is a personality that stays with you. It's not something that disappears.
Well, like serial killers, it's said that they always start with animals.
Yep.
There's something.
Yeah, or they may be in the military or in positions
Yes.
of power. Now, again, we're not saying that everybody in the military is a sadist, but
No.
what we do know is that sadistic individuals often do engage in those types of things. We see again, people like Russell Williams. They need power, they need control, they need to feel omnipotent, and sometimes they can do that by being the leader of some club or group, heavily involved in their church community, things like that, but and I'm not saying again that act in itself is sadistic, but it helps them to kind of gain some of the I guess, I mean, in narcissism we'd call it narcissistic supply that they need. And narcissism is part of this dark tetrad as well. So even if you're not seeing leakage of violent kind of sadistic acts, what you see in someone like Russell Williams is certainly leakage of narcissism, which is part of the dark tetrad.
And he was pretty controlling.
Yeah.
If not of other people, of his own things, his surroundings.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's just not comparable. Rick does not have anyone who's indicated narcissistic traits, not one person. Now, even if we were to believe this anonymous story, there was still no indication of narcissism. What there was indication of was creepy, silly stuff being said that, at worst is creepy, but at best it's just a weird sense of humor. It's not really, even if it's true, which I'm not necessarily saying I don't really believe it is true, but even if it were true, it's not an indicator of the dark tetrad again.
Right.
And I think this is the really key thing. Whoever committed this crime would have at least some indicators of those dark traits. And we don't see that with Rick.
Right.
So,
and if somebody out there knew something that they thought they saw in him, they wouldn't have been interviewed. They wouldn't have been presented in court to testify. What? They wouldn't have said anything.
Yeah.
He's already in custody. I don't have to worry about him.
Yeah.
He didn't know anybody. It's not like he could have reached out from the prison he was sitting in. Like, you make sure you keep her quiet. There's nothing. Exactly. There's nothing.
No, there's nothing. And this is the thing. Yeah, it always goes back to that. And I know people go, well, you don't know him personally. I don't know him personally. What are we talking about? Well, again, you don't personally know my dog, but you know that he can't speak French. Right. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know people go, well, no, that's silly. Dogs can't speak French. Well, actually, the base rate for a man with no history of any deviance committing a crime like this, and there never being any uncovering of that deviance after the fact either, is 0. Nobody has found me a case like that. If you can, I will absolutely concede defeat on this, but there has not been one criminal. So Russell Williams, people go, well, adult offender started like onset offender. However, Russell Williams, after the fact, it was very clear he was the offender. But after the fact here, nothing has been found to indicate that Rick is the offender of this crime.
Right. Have you watched the Russell Williams interview where
I
he
have.
confessed? He's
Very
not.
different, right?
He's not medicated. He's very controlled. He's very
Mhm,
pleasant. He's not.
mhm,
He's not even. No, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. But none of that. He
mhm.
just kind of takes it all in, and when they finally tell him, this is
Yep,
why we know it's you, he thinks about it very briefly, and then
yep,
he says, okay, yeah, it was me.
yep,
He's
yep.
not he's not upset. He's
No.
nothing. He's just sitting there confessing.
Which again kind of fits quite well with psychopathy. That at the end of the day, there is a shallow affect. So you can kind of tell that I'm not psychopathic because I don't have shallow affect. I'm like, I'm so annoyed by this. I'm so passionate, right?
Yep.
With psychopathy, that is one of the indicators on, the validated measures like the Hare's psychopathy checklist is, shallow affect, kind of basically, yeah, just very, what's the word? I lost the word, but yeah, not a large emotional range. Now, Rick, he has a very significant emotional range because he's
Yes.
suffered his entire life with severe emotions.
Yeah. You can see it in his gestures. You can hear it in his voice. You can see it on his face.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Dee, that I've brought up a few times, because, even if people don't want to trust me on this, I've never met Rick, but, yes, I have clinical expertise, but I haven't met him. Are we also saying that every psychiatrist he saw over 2 decades of psychiatrists he saw, because we know he was medicated and treated for depression for decades, none of them saw any indicators either?
Right.
So I can tell you that, I mean, it's rare as a clinician in private practice to come across people with dark traits. It is rare. They don't usually turn up for treatment. Usually we're seeing the opposite end of the spectrum, the highly sensitive, hyper-empathic, anxious, depressed people. But occasionally we do. We do see it. Sometimes it'll be a young person that's being antisocial. And I'm not going to lie. Sometimes we are in our supervision settings and we're like, I worry what this child is going to be capable of when they grow up,
Right.
right? You can see the difference. These dark traits are not so hidden that you're totally duped, particularly not as a mental health professional and not as multiple. He hasn't just had one mental health professional involved with him, he's had multiple.
Right. And he's been married to someone he met in high school for umpteen years.
Mm-hmm,
That's a long, stable relationship.
mm-hmm. I'm going to show you guys the dark tetrad or dark triad. So it started as a dark triad. They added sadism to make it the dark tetrad. I'm just trying to find someone's visual that looks good here. We'll use this person. Heidi Psychology has got a nice visual here. So this is a dark triad. And this is what we would expect to see in the offender of this crime. Now, that's because this is not a reactive crime. A reactive crime doesn't involve staging of bodies. It doesn't involve doing painful things to try and murder someone. It involves usually a quick let me get this, like, silence this person and let me quickly just cover up the body and go. And that's not what that crime scene looks like. I don't care what anyone says. There is no way, even law enforcement themselves can't say that those sticks are concealment, and that the bodies would actually fall in tarot poses. Goodness, I mean, how coincidental is it that both of them
It's
are
just
in a
the
specific
darndest
place,
thing. One second.
right?
Dave, 1 second. Yeah. Dave has said a couple of times we're dealing with an appeal and the appeal court excludes much of this. Right. And we're just talking. None of us are his appellate attorneys.
No. And I think a lot of this is more us talking about, um, well, just advocating for him as a person, but also hopefully, I don't know what's involved, if there's retrial or post conviction relief. I do. It actually, I do find it really problematic if information about the crime scene and what it tells us about the offender based on statistics and science isn't able to be considered in a court of law. That would really worry me, because we seem to be able to consider matching an unspent round to a fired round as science, but actually that science doesn't have any validated research. What we're talking about here is based on scientific statistical research. It's not just, I don't think he would have done it. It's, well, actually find me a case of someone who's done it. And so this dark triad and some of these concepts, they are not just a theoretical idea of like, oh, well, this is what we think. This is based on decades and decades of forensic cases, forensic psychology research. So it is absolutely validated. And yeah, it's a shame if courts don't use this information. I think a jury would, I think would benefit from this, because if a jury knew that that crime scene is not at all consistent with Rick's, confession, potentially, allegedly that he gave to Dr. Weiler, because it isn't. That is not a reactive crime scene, and I don't think anybody would say that it was. There is no way those sticks just fell like that or were used as concealment. Right. So no, it wasn't used in evidence at trial, David, which is a problem here. This is the issue. The defense were very much what's the words, like so much was suppressed and not allowed. But I also think that there were areas that the defense didn't explore because they got focused on areas like third party culprits where they weren't allowed to use it, and then by the time they're trying to plan this case, they're kind of scrambling. And I think that some of these angles were missed. So I know they can't be brought up in appeal. I personally don't hang my hat on this appeal. I wish that it would be successful, but I do think it's going to take more than the appeal to advocate for Rick and to get him freedom. So, so this is the dark triad. So Machiavellian. So let's look at any of these that Rick ticks. Machiavellianism, strategic and manipulative, focus on personal gain, exploitative and deceptive. I mean, do we hear any indicators of that historically in his life?
No.
Nope. So then we have psychopathy, a lack of empathy and remorse. Well, this man's like literally guilt-stricken, so even though I don't believe he did it, he's guilt-stricken. Callous and antisocial. I mean, that's not how he's described by anyone. Hostile, reckless and risky. I mean, Rick Allen doesn't appear reckless or risky. He appears like somebody who is the opposite of that. Like, he's always worried about risk. That's what the anxiety that he suffers is about. What if bad things happen and I can't look after my family? Well, like, what if I don't have enough money, even though he has enough money? He's not someone who looks like he seeks stimulation. We don't see any indicators of that.
No, and he's very empathetic.
Yep.
If this is too much for you, Kathy, I get it.
Yep.
Don't feel bad.
Yep. Jenny, you're spot on. Panic kills don't have any follow-up staging. If they did have staging, it would be more to try and say, oh, it wasn't me, it was a burglar or something. It's more trying to kind of distance yourself from it. So in a domestic violence situation, or, Dee's invited me to her house and then we've had a fight and I've killed her. I always use these terrible examples, Dee, sorry. And then I'm like, oh no, they'll know that. Well, actually think of Jodi Arias is a good example of this, right? Then attempting to make up some story that it was a break-in and things like that. I don't know if she staged the crime scene, but those would be staging after a panic killing. I don't know. Again, Jodi Arias didn't seem like a panic killing either. Probably not a good example, but we do see these cases where there is a panic killing. People get into a dispute and then they go, oh crap, like now I need to pretend that it's a burglar. But when we look at signature or tableau, which is what we see in this crime scene, that has got nothing to do with a panic killing. It's not even really to do with like trying to, get the person off the scent. Particularly in this case, if we're to believe Rick is the person who did this, he doesn't really need to distance himself from it because he's unrelated to the victims in the first place.
Right.
Why does he then need to stage it as tarot poses and ritualistic kind of elements to the crime scene and symbolism to be like, well, so that way they won't think it was the random man on the trail. They'll think it was the Odinists or something. Like, I mean, that to me, that's just not logical.
No, I mean, no.
So whoever it is that posed the bodies that way had a fantasy, an idea in their mind of what they wanted to present. You know, this was it's disgusting, but this was their fantasy art in a way. And so that person had to know at least a little bit about some of the symbolism they used. They're not going to be just someone who goes, how could I pose the bodies so they look symbolic?
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't know how to. Like, now I know a bit about tarot cards. I didn't know anything about tarot cards. So when I saw the bodies initially, I didn't go, oh, magician and hanged man. I didn't know what they were.
No,
but
exactly.
But when you see them.
Yeah, I looked at the drawings and thought, that's really weird. But
right,
that was it.
Exactly. And I mean, so what are the chances that both bodies fall in a way that matches a tarot card? Like, come on, that can't mean, I don't know how many tarot cards there are. There certainly can't be that many tarot cards that, you know, and essentially that's not how bodies usually fall naturally. You know, is it possible they fell that way naturally? Yes. Is it possible that two fell that way naturally? And then, you know, in the particular positions, is it possible then that we get sticks that fall in just the right position to hold the bodies in those poses? Like, you know, when you add up the probability of all of that, it's nil.
Right.
I get really heated about this. Sorry, Dee. I'm like going off on
everything related to psychology is just based on feelings. It's not based on history. It's not based on experience, just being a human. It's not, it's just your feelings.
Yeah, it's just vibes. I just got the vibes. I liked Rick. He was a nice guy, and I just wanted to advocate for him because I think he's good.
I've never met him before. I've only seen him on TV, but I can just tell you, he's a good guy.
Do you know what's really interesting, Dee? That when I worked in the correctional settings, I'm just turning my air conditioning on. It's so hot here. My air conditioning control is not working. Anyway, when I worked in corrections, basically, our team of psychologists, particularly people like myself, got called the bleeding hearts by the correctional officers. And one correctional officer, I'll never forget it, he said to me, I've been to coroner's court more times than you've had hot dinners. And I was like, why are you advertising that? Because I've never been to coroner's court and I never really want to go to coroner's court. So like, but you know, the assumption there is that we're just these nice do-gooders and we just like everybody and we want to just help everybody. And it's like, no, we just take the time to be curious and understand people and try and decode why they are the way they are. And we do care about our fellow humans. So it's just, again, it's this sort of flattening of what psychology is, you know?
Yeah.
And yes, I've admitted intuitively there was a part of me that always kind of leaned more towards Rick's innocence. The difference here is, though, that intuition was based on pattern recognition of over a decade of clients like Rick. Like, he is my clientele. And so if you ask me to spot a, you know, highly sensitive, neurodivergent, highly anxious person, I'm pretty good at doing that because that's my bread and butter. Like, I work with that minority group day in, day out. So did I rely a little bit upon my intuition, which is basically understanding patterns of human behavior? Yes, but that's because that is the area I work in. But I wouldn't rely upon my judgment.
To research. You didn't just make that decision and then leave it at that.
No, exactly. Because to be honest, on first instinct, looking at Kegan Kline, you go, oh, well, it must be him because he looks like a bad guy and he did the wrong thing and he's terrible. But then I was like, but how many people who catfish and, you know, sit there trying to chat with girls online and get their photos end up killing them? Actually, not very many.
Yeah.
So I'll go with
and I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm not saying I'm just saying he's not the killer.
Totally different type of offender, you know?
Yes, he's a bad guy, done terrible things, but they were different things.
Exactly. It's not a sadist. Usually what we see in offenders like Kegan Klein is that they're avoidant people. They don't have particularly good social skills. They don't have great capacity to meet people. They are manipulative. They'd have some qualities, but they're, again, probably not sadistic. And again, I think this is where people think sadistic just means bad person, but it doesn't. Sadism is a particular trait. It is a person who enjoys harming other people.
Right. You don't just wake up one day and think, damn it, today's the day.
I mean, it doesn't even bear thinking about, because when I think about, like, how could you enjoy harming another person? Like, and often you mentioned before hurting animals, and yeah, I mean, I can remember a kid that's an extended family member, and he used to like roll rocks down the slide to kill the bull ants,
Ew.
and you're right, exactly right. And subsequently in school, he bashed someone with a baseball bat on the bus. I mean, my parents didn't let me hang out with this extended family member again after these stories, but that is alarming. That's concerning. Most kids don't do that stuff. So, if I see a child, throwing a dog, or setting fire. I mean, obviously, I've never seen that happen, but those are concerning, because
Right.
most human beings naturally don't want to do that. We might kill a spider because we don't like the spider because it's scary, but we don't go, oh, how can I like attack this spider? I mean, even yesterday, my kids wanted to learn about snails. They made a little snail, they called it Snail Mania in our garden the other day when we were gardening. And we watched this video on facts about snails. And one of the facts was about pouring salt on snails, and it was showing the snails all foamed up with the salt. And we were like devastated. We looked at it and we're like, and then my beautiful sweetheart empath son says, maybe like nobody did it on purpose, and they just saw the snail sitting in salt and realized that. I'm like, that's such a lovely interpretation, but I think someone did that on purpose, because it wouldn't even occur to him to go, I wonder what happens if we put
Right.
salt on a snail.
My dad wouldn't even let us kill spiders when we were kids. No, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Get the dustpan. It was always get the dustpan. And he'd push the spider into the dustpan, take it outside.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle with this because, I'm very much a little wimp when it comes to reptiles, particularly, but also, yeah, spiders. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously living in Australia, we have spiders, snakes, lizards, frogs. I always talk about the frogs. I can't stand these frogs. They drive me nuts. But like, I don't want to hurt them. When the frog got stuck in my pool, I was like, I can't stand these bloody frogs. And I often make comments to my kids like, get me a shotgun. I'll go fire all these frogs. But there's no way I'd ever do it. It got stuck in the pool, and I spent half an hour trying to figure out ways to get it out, Like, even today, I know when we were having a picnic, there was an ant like crawling up near my son. He doesn't really like spiders. This is a little one, and bugs. And he was kind of putting the lunchbox on it. And I was like, sweetheart, you're hurting the ant. Just move away from it, or use the plate to move it. And he wasn't trying to hurt it. It was just like, I don't like this ant. I just want it to get away. But as soon as I was like, you're hurting it, he was like, I don't want to hurt it. So sadism.
Why would you let me do that?
Right, exactly. So sadism is not just even accidentally hurting them, not hurting someone because they've upset you or they're getting in the way, hurting someone for sport.
Yeah. Did you see Christina's here?
Hey, Christina. Oh, hey. Sorry, I'm not even watching the chat. I'm just on my soapbox today, guys. Sorry.
It's hey, Christina.
Oh, hey. So, well, actually, let's go to the chat, because I have talked a lot, and apologies for that, guys. I get so passionate about this stuff. But let's see any big thoughts in the chat. Anyone? You might have to repeat them, because I'll try and scroll through, but I can't see all the comments. There's been lots, so thanks to everyone for being here. But yeah, any big thoughts about anything we've discussed today?
Let's see. I thought Dave said something. Oh yeah, one sec. Then I gotta find it. What can we do now to best help him? It seems like right this very moment, just keep his name out there. We got to wait for the appeal filing, and there's no specific date on that.
No.
But, if you believe in his innocence, keep his name out there. Keep talking about why.
Yeah. So more people pay attention and don't just say, oh, well, we saw a mugshot and he looks guilty. He probably is. Like, because it's easy to jump to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And actually also help people recognize just how many wrongful convictions there are. Because I think that was an eye opener for me. I just never really thought about it too much, to be honest. And now, Rick is obviously the person that I'm advocating for now, but I hope that in time I'll be able to also look into other cases, because
Right.
I know Rick's not alone. He's not the only one struggling in this situation.
No. Hey, Carla Ann.
Everyone's excited because Dee's in here. Look at me. I get the best guest, don't I?
You do. We're a fun crowd.
Yeah.
Even with the sad topic.
Christopher's got a good question here. I don't know with this blood pool, because I used to think that looks like an asterisk too. It's hard.
Yeah,
I haven't.
too.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think what we know is that sticks and nature are symbolic parts of potentially of this crime. I just don't think that the sticks on the bodies are necessarily primarily symbolic. I think they're more to hold the bodies in a symbolic form, but that doesn't mean they're not symbolic too. I mean, why did they use sticks rather than some other type of binding or whatever? Maybe they serve a dual purpose.
Maybe. Maybe it was like an X marks the spot kind of shape. Here's the pool of blood. I don't know. Does blood mean something magic? Or I don't know if you call tarot magic. I didn't mean it as an insult, if that's how it came off.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, in terms of also what we do for Rick now, I mean, one of the things I still think that we can do, which is I know more the PCR avenue, or if there's retrial, and that is try and figure out how to get exculpatory evidence for Rick, because I think there is exculpatory evidence, but it's buried. And so my NELOS point, which is what we started on today, I think if that NELOS report was requested for Rick's phone identifiers, then there has to be some crumbs left behind.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how much certain people want to try and sanitize things, you can't completely delete requests to other organizations, notes in databases, things like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think so that's why I got quite excited about the phone stuff. I think the NELO stuff, the geofence stuff, I think that there could be, we know that they have some of the geofence material already anyway in discovery, but I don't think the defense had a digital expert that looked at that. I think that the funds for their digital expert went into Libby's phone, not the geofence data. And also, I always go back to the fact that Jennifer is arguing this point just months before the trial, that they don't really still seem to have full access to everything that was done. I mean, the cast report, I think Nick McClellan said something like, oh, no, that's all we have. It's like, no, that's not all you have. You don't just have these 3 phones that were at the crime scene. The cast report wouldn't just be that. There's more. And I don't know whether it was buried in discovery or whether it wasn't even provided in full to begin with. And how could the defense even know, given how much crap was piled on them in little piecemeal fashion and not well organized? I mean, some of the discs they had, they could only view in the I can't even remember, in the clerk's office or something, because they had CSAM related stuff to do with Kegan Klein. And, there's things, if you look at the discovery documentation, there are things that they couldn't even take the drives away. They actually had to look at it in the judges or whatever, the prosecutor's office. So, that's really tying their hands behind their back.
It did. It was almost anything they could present as a defense was not allowed. How do you defend someone when you can't?
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I agree. There's nothing immediate we can do, and that is so frustrating because, I mean, I think they've already taken the life out of Rick. Like, I wonder if he's ever going to be able to overcome this. I know the best trauma therapist ever, my buddy Ash. So, if we can get Rick out of jail, he should see Ash. I mean, yeah, jokes aside, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to come back from this psychologically.
There's some brokenness that can never be. You can't go back in time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you just look at the difference between him in 3 years, I mean, like, I had around the same time that Rick was arrested, is the same time I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I went through the worst chemo and all of those things. And I compare myself to 3 years ago, which the picture that I have here is me 3 years ago versus how I look now. And you guys have seen me. And I lament about, like, oh, I don't look the same. But Rick, it's like he's aged like 20 years in 3 years.
Yeah.
It's massive. Like, you would not even believe it's the same person. And that the body, basically, as we know, the hallmark text for the trauma, the body keeps score. You can see that. He looks like a different person. You can see he wears that trauma.
Yeah. I haven't been through nearly what he has, but I lost my husband.
Yeah.
And I will never be the same. I don't look the same. I don't speak the same. I don't operate in the world the way I did. And I have no interest in ever being that way again.
Yeah.
It's not the same world. My mind isn't the same mind, and my heart's not the same heart.
Yeah.
I can't imagine if someone had intentionally been torturing me. Like, my husband couldn't help it, but it was torture for a long time. These
it's
people
interesting
are
you say
intentionally torturing him.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, Dee, as well, because my mum lost her husband, probably a similar age to you, Dee, or maybe a little bit older, and so that was my dad, obviously, and she had friends whose husbands had cheated on them, and they'd all hang out together because they were all the women on their own, and it was so interesting because obviously, like, my mum struggled, a lot with the loss of her husband, as unfortunately Dee's had to experience too. But like you said, it's not done to you. It's like, it's a horrible loss and it's a grief and it's a trauma. But in a case where your ego gets affected, like, you feel like you're a bad person. You feel like you're, but you're being treated like the scum of the earth. That you're not worth anything. Now, again, I'm never it's apples and oranges. So yeah, I know you probably know that, Dee. I'm not saying, oh, well, that's worse than what you've had, but it's different. It's a different type of.
It's very different, and it's ongoing.
Yeah.
I don't watch him die every day anymore.
Yeah.
And it was never my fault, and it was never his fault.
Yeah.
What's happening to Rick is somebody's fault.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So you see, we've got grief and loss trauma, which is sad, a lot of sadness. It's heavy, and there's anxiety, and there can sometimes be guilt even wrapped into it, even though they should, there doesn't need to be. It's not logical. But when we go to a case like this, you've got what I always say is the most damaging emotion, and that's shame.
Yeah.
Shame will kill you. Shame, if we think of suicide and, the people who struggle the most with their mental health, shame is almost always at the core of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, quietly, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the quietly saying she went through a similar experience to you, Dee. Very sad.
Made me want to reach through the screen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a really tough experience to have. I can only imagine it. I mean, I lost my dad suddenly to a heart attack. I think watching someone that you love die, again, apples and oranges, different experiences. I think it would just be so heartbreaking.
It is. I'm not saying worse. Like, the suddenness would have altered my equilibrium for a long time.
Yeah.
But I watched this for a couple of years, and before that he was always sick. And it's every day it's another little piece.
Yeah.
So it's long before the actual day. There are a bunch of days.
It's just this prolonged,
Right. And I would still go back and beg for another day.
Of course.
As awful as it was,
it
wasn't this awful.
You still wanted, you still want that person to be in the Earth's atmosphere with you, right?
I want to hear him say my name.
Of course. Oh. Yeah, it's just horrendous.
It ended, and I don't wake up every day and see it.
Yeah.
He does. Kathy does.
Yeah. And knows that he's continuing to face that torture. There's no peace. Rick is not in peace now, and he hasn't been. I mean, for the last 3 years, but even prior to that, with all of the problems with his mental health, I always go back as well to the point that I think Rick hasn't just been failed by the justice system. I think he's been failed by, and I don't know his mental health treatment history, but I just feel like nobody should not have had significant improvement in their mental health over decades of treatment. That to me suggests that maybe
Jenny,
they haven't got to the bottom of it, in terms of diagnostically and stuff. But anyway, it's all very sad, isn't it?
Yeah. And he's got to wake up every day and think, is this hell? Did I die? And did I wake up in hell? Is this literally it?
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, and Rick is somebody that we know spent his whole life crucifying himself, and now he's being crucified essentially. I mean, what a horror! It's just unimaginable. You spend your whole life worrying. And I have a client very similar to Rick who has, or I have multiple, it's not just one, but I have clients very similar to Rick that, spend their whole life in fear that, they're a step away from a catastrophe where they'll lose everything. And in this case, well, that happened,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the only thing that I'm angry about losing him is I always thought, because I knew Brad was going to die, I always thought that either I would have my dad to help me go through that, or my dad would go first and I would have Brad. My dad has dementia and he's still alive.
Oh.
Brad is gone. I don't have either one of them.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, is that not the most ironic thing? Like, I planned around that kind of, and then it happened this way. Like, well, that's a real kick in the pants.
I know.
But you know what? Life goes on, right?
Well, they say God laughs, right? It's just like it just sometimes you do just go like, really? Like,
I should never have said that out loud. Before it happened. I should have knocked wood. This is crazy bad.
Yeah. Anders is asking who's on the panel. We've got Dita with us today, Anders. I don't know. Do you know Anders, Dita? Have you seen Anders before?
I want to say like a long time ago, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Would I have seen you at
Pops in a few times with us.
At any rate, hello, Anders. Sorry.
Yeah, we've had a really good list of people coming in today and chatting. And sorry that I've ignored the chat quite a lot today, guys. Really appreciative, though, of everybody coming in and kind of offering their thoughts and ideas and also just us connecting. I think it's really nice when we just get to connect. I think the lives can be an opportunity to connect on that more human level as well with each other. I think the Delphi community has its downsides. We all know that, most of us know that, and have experienced, some of the negative aspects of the Delphi community, but it also does have its beautiful sides, So, for me, connecting with people like Dita and Kelly and Anarch and Diana, I've been able to connect with, and lots of others. So sorry if I'm not naming everybody, but I've connected with so many beautiful, genuine people through this. Adrienne would be another one that definitely is high on that list. So yeah, I think it's nice that like-minded people can kind of join together. A lot of us are highly empathic people, and highly empathic people, we're a minority, unfortunately, in the world. It shouldn't be, but it is. And so even though Rick is in such a terrible situation, if it's brought us all together, there's some good that comes of this. I just hope that it translates to good for Rick as well.
Yeah. I think it's nice, the group here, even if you don't agree, everybody is at least able to empathize, right? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't agree, but I can understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's, I've always been happy about that in this community. There hasn't been any real ugliness, which is lovely. We can disagree, and we sometimes have our little jokes at each other when we disagree, but there is a lot of kindness in here. But yeah.
Most of the time.
We're getting a lot of stories of grief here. Just it's so sad. So Kelly lost her mum to cancer when she was 15 and lost her gramps to Alzheimer's, and quietly said lost her husband and mum 4 months apart.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness. Yeah. Gosh, grief and loss is just
body check.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
been in long-term care for quite some time, and he hasn't known me or anybody for a couple of years. But man, he is in tip-top physical condition. There is never anything wrong with him. He's never got a cold. He's never got the flu. He is just this amazing spectacle of physical health.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about these diseases, that they just don't discriminate. And it was interesting, like even today with my son, we're talking about like skin cancer, because I was saying to him, I'm always much more cautious with my children and putting, sun cream on them than I am with myself. And he said, how come, Mummy? And I'm like, well, because you've got like maybe 80 plus years to go in this world. And I'm halfway through my life. So yes, it's still important, but these sorts of things take time to develop. And he said, but you have had cancer, Mum. And I was like, yeah, breast cancer. And I said, but, sun doesn't cause that. He's like, well, what does cause that? And I'm like, well, sometimes smoking, being overweight, can add some minimal risk, but, I don't do any of I don't have any of those things. I said, it's just, it's kind of just like luck of the draw. And that's a hard thing to explain because, to a child, because it's like, how can it just be so random? But it really is. So
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And then sometimes, in the case, if we go back to Delphi, it can be like sliding doors moments. I always kind of go back to that with this, Rick and the girls. There was this sliding door moment. If he had been, a little bit, like if his time had been off just a tiny bit and he were on the bridge, maybe things wouldn't have ended this way. If it had snowed that year and they didn't have that snow day, would it have ended differently, Yeah.
I keep thinking that, like, if it had just not been a day off school for them.
Mm-hmm. And if Bree Wilbur and those girls were there just that tiny bit later, if they could have stayed later and waited, there's just so many horrible things that kind of all coincided into this situation, and that ended up catastrophically destroying so many lives.
Yeah. And if Grandma hadn't said, okay, yeah, go, she's got to deal with that every day.
Yeah.
If only I had said no.
Yeah. And I think we all have those sliding door moments in our lives. I know I definitely do. I've lost a pet to a terrible accident. That was one of my beautiful pets, Delilah. And yeah, you just had, it's like this split second where you're like, oh. And I mean, we hear of, kids that drown in the swimming pool, or parents that back out of the drive, onto the child. It's like these split second things. And as a parent, I can see those. I mean, my son, I remember he would have been about 2, and we went to the beach. I had my 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I went to take off my sundress, put them on the sand, took off my sundress, and turned around for a split second, and I was so lucky the 4-year-old said baby, and I look and I can see his head just going under the water. He toddled off into the water, and he was literally just sinking under the water. It was a split second. It just hadn't even occurred to me he would toddle into the water while I was taking my dress off to get, to go in the water myself. And he was fine. But it was in that moment I went, it could have ended very differently. Just one extra minute, and it could have ended very differently.
For sure. I remember I lost my son, my oldest one, when he was really little, in a store. And I didn't even know. He was gone for such a brief time. I didn't even notice until the employee came up behind me holding his hand. I'm like, what happened? Where have you been? She said, I was just working around the corner, and he came over and took my hand and said, I can't find my mom. I'm like, well, how did you know who to go to? And he said, because she had on a sweater from the store. Like, that is brilliant, child. But he only went around the corner. It could have been further. It could have been forever. But stuff happens.
Well, I mean, Dee, do you know of the James Bulger case, the little toddler? I mean, that one, to me, it haunts me to this day. Oh, Kelly's thinking the same way as I am. Like,
watching that video where they're walking away.
Isn't it?
Oh, you just want to reach through and tell them, don't go. Just don't go.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many people pass them as they walk on the street and had second thoughts about, is that okay? Is it not okay? And it's like, so any one of those people could have, potentially intervened, but they were like, oh, it'll be okay. Or no, I can't. I think there was one person, or maybe they had their dog or something, and they were going to take them to the police station. But then I can't even remember. There's just all of these sliding door moments again. And I mean, which parent hasn't let go of their child's hand in a shopping centre? I mean, we've all lost our kid at some point. I've got a story of, leaving my child in the, one of those playground things and turning around talking to my best friend because I hadn't expected her to be there. And the next thing we're like, where is he? I can't see him anywhere. And, those few minutes of total panic.
And we almost all of us get them back.
Absolutely. Yeah. 99% of the time, or more than 99% of the time, it's fine.
And those ones that don't have to live with that forever, and I just can't stand online comments. What a terrible parent. I would never do that. Well, you know what? Most of us have, and most of us got our children back. So zip it.
I'm so with you on this, Dee. And I mean, this is a point that I always kind of come back to, even when it comes again to Delphi, because people will go, well, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't confess, or I would know if my husband was like this, or I would do this. And it's like, what's really important is cognitive empathy. And cognitive empathy is essentially the capacity to take perspective, to think, what would I really feel in that situation? Have I ever had a situation even remotely similar, and how did I go in that? But so many people just have this knee-jerk reaction. I wouldn't. Like I said, I had that knee-jerk reaction to Kegan Kline. I go, well, a child sexual offender, terrible person, must have killed the girls. And then it was like, that's just my knee-jerk impulsive reaction. And then I was like, but actually, let me understand a bit more about that type of offender. And when I did that, I was like, well, actually, no, I shouldn't jump to that conclusion. Or even when you see Rick Allen's mugshot, I mean, anyone in a mugshot usually looks pretty suspicious. I remember when I first looked at the Delphi case, I was like, well, they got the guy. Who cares? Right. And so we shouldn't rely on those what we call our common sense instinctual reactions, because they're usually not based on cognitive empathy of really kind of deeply understanding how we would be or what's going on in a situation. So, yeah. I really always encourage everybody to do that. I mean, even when we're going through this memory stuff, you know, where they're like, oh, Betsy Blair, so suspicious if she said this. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, the witnesses are not suspicious. Do you remember? Like, I was literally at the pool all day today. I can't tell you the description of more than a few people. I can remember one guy because he reminded me of a guy in a YouTube video my kids watched. It's a funny video that we laugh at. And I can remember, you know, the woman who had the most amazing swimsuit and perfect body. And, you know, I can remember the cute little twins, but like I can't remember everyone that was there. You know, our memories don't work like that. And again, this is this idea of like, well, obviously he's lying or she's lying. And it's like, no, even when Rick changes his time, these are known errors. Human beings are fallible. And I think people really need to stop applying perfectionistic kind of black and white ideas about what people do and don't do in circumstances. And this is where if you don't know, and that's fine if you don't know, because we don't know everything. I don't know everything. But this is where we have to go back to then going, okay, well, let me find out more. Let me be curious.
Right. That's where the evidence would have come in handy.
Yes, exactly. So like I said, on first instinct, Kagan Klein, perfect offender.
Right.
I had to research it. I didn't intuitively just go, I don't think that a guy who's socially awkward and sits online catfishing young women isn't a murderer. I didn't know that because I'm not an expert in that area. And then I was like, well, let me look at the statistics and figure that out. You know, I didn't automatically know that sticks on the bodies could mean something or couldn't mean something. I was like, well, let's explore all angles. Let's look at all the different hypotheses here, and be curious, I think, is always the key. Be curious before we jump to a conclusion about guilt, innocence, and everything in between.
Yep. Like, I don't think that many of the girls' families were super good people, but I can feel with, I don't believe a single one of them were the perpetrator.
No, I'm with you.
So I can still feel badly for them, even though maybe had they done something differently, it would have turned out differently, but maybe it wouldn't have. This is what happened. And if you're not guilty, and if there's not, you know, a knife in your hand with your fingerprints and you're covered in cuts yourself, I don't think you were there. So I'm going to feel really bad for you, because for the rest of your life, you're going to be sitting there thinking, what if I had just said no?
Exactly. And I think, you know, again, this is where things get flattened. Yes, the majority of young people die at the hands of people they know, of relatives. Unfortunately, yes. But if it were a family crime, if it were someone in the family, you wouldn't expect the crime scene to look the way that it is. Again, exactly. This is the mismatch here. Now, if the girls had just, you know, if we think of poor little Kaylee Anthony, right? Yeah. That's a very different situation. The body wasn't posed or staged. That is much more consistent with, you know, it potentially being a family member who then dumps the body to kind of hide what they've done. But these bodies weren't dumped to hide what was done. These bodies were posed and displayed in a way to absolutely showcase what was done.
They wanted them to be found, and they wanted them to be found quickly.
And that's not Kelsey German or Becky Patty or any of those people, because it's highly unusual for a family member to engage in an act of sadistic violence and stage the body of their loved one. It just is. I mean, there's so many horrible cases where it'll be like, you know, parents that did kill a child. Not so many, obviously there's not lots of cases like that, but there are cases like that. And generally speaking, then those bodies are found dumped. You know, they're found dumped. They're found hidden. There's ways to try and conceal the fact that they've killed the family member. They're not put on show.
Yeah.
That there.
Charles, you're a goofball. Objection.
BG has a neck. What's Charles even talking about? BG has a neck.
I can't see KK making the walk to the site without having a hernia. Objection. BG has a neck.
Look, I mean, I hear some funny things that people say about KK, and I'm not here to body shame anyone, but
that's funny.
But there are some funny ones. I can't remember who it was. I don't know. Was it Criminal Network? Someone who said, "I don't think Kegan Klein's walked a trail in his life" or something. And it's like, it's kind of funny, guys. I'm going to laugh at it, but I'm not. I'm not here to shame him based on how he looks. But he's not a good person. We know that.
Right.
What he's done. I mean, he's a hurt person. Wait a second. Sorry. The dog has just stolen my little one's absolute favorite toy, which is a replica of our cat, Delilah. So give me a second. I will just need to rescue Delilah. Give me a sec. Luckily, he dropped it quickly. I'm like, do not tear up Delilah. That will not go down very well. Kegan Kline, look, I don't like to condemn anyone as a bad person. Hopefully he can be rehabilitated. I don't hold much hope for that.
I think it's just such a terrible thing, but there are so many obvious reasons why we think he didn't do this particular crime.
Yeah.
That this is just stating what should be very obvious.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he could have walked up and down that hill for many reasons. But that report that you were reading tonight clearly stated Ron Logan was physically able to go up and down that hill. So
yep.
There's a difference.
And he knew the terrain. So, yeah, I mean, look, I don't personally believe Ron Logan, like I said before, is heavily involved. But, yes, he knew the terrain. Whereas Kegan Kline, I mean, was he walking that trails all the time? Was he familiar with the area? I mean, how would you even know where to go on the south end of the bridge unless you had been there before?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think most people would be, studying Google Earth like we are now. I know what looks like on the south end of the bridge. So do everyone probably in this chat, but that's because we've been studying Google Earth. Would I have known that if I just visited Delphi, on a whim 10 years ago? No. Right?
Would you have known Delphi existed?
No, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have known anything about the Monon High Bridge and any of that stuff, of course. No. And so, yeah, I think it's reasonable to assume that whoever is responsible for this crime did know what was on the south end of the bridge and the overall terrain, and which, again, is why I don't think it's someone who would be unfamiliar with the trails.
Right.
USA Libertarians asking, what's the profile reasons we don't think KK fits the bill? So, yeah, I'll leave it with you, Dee, for a minute. I'm just going to get a drink of water and then I'll come back and add my thoughts too.
Okay. Well, Amy is the psychologist. I'm just a nobody. This was not a sexual crime. Neither girl showed evidence of being sexually assaulted. There was some sort of DNA on the bodies, but it wasn't even enough to identify anybody. That's my reasoning. KK was into sexual things, and he wanted pictures. He wanted to charm these people. He even posed as a girl, so he seemed less threatening. He wasn't aggressive. He was trying to be charming. And then when he said he was going to I don't even know if this is true, but there's talk that he said he was supposed to meet them, but he didn't go. Like, even when he had the opportunity.
And we've never seen any evidence of this.
Yeah, they did take his DNA, but the DNA on the bodies that may or may not have been sexual in nature, there wasn't even enough of that to match to anything.
I'm so glad you said that, Dee, because I think a lot of people hang their hat on the DNA and think that the DNA just wasn't tested enough. If you look at Stacey, and I won't even try and say her last name because I don't want to butcher it, but if you look at what her testimony says and you go through it with a fine-tooth comb, they couldn't confirm that it was sperm. So you can have a positive, right, a positive confirmatory test for sperm, but there was no whatever, I forget what it's there, what the terms are. But essentially, they couldn't confirm it was male. So you can have a positive confirmatory test based on cervical fluids and things like that. There are a lot of false positives, and this is, and I know people laugh and mock about the laundry idea as well, but actually, essentially, males do shed more DNA than females, and it's not unheard of for DNA to be on clothing from family members, from shared laundry and things like that. I think people think DNA is the smoking gun in this case. I really don't think it is. I think whoever did this either didn't engage sexually with the girls in a contact offence or was very careful about it.
Yes, I don't think they did either. I think there was DNA, but I don't think it was sperm.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe it was lost too.
Oh, exactly. Who even knows if there was DNA and it just wasn't collected properly, because we can't trust anything in this case. But no, they definitely could not confirm for sure that it was sperm. Right. The first sort of step to saying it could be, they couldn't rule out that it was, but they couldn't rule in that it definitely was. And then when they looked at the DNA profile, it did not have a Y chromosome. So they couldn't confirm that it was male or female at that point. There just simply wasn't enough of it. And I've heard that too, Anders, about is it somebody who's shooting blanks? I mean, I think this is an oversimplification of it from what I know. And again, I don't want to kind of go into territory that I am not an expert in. I haven't actually even done as much research in, but I don't think that the theory of it, someone who had a vasectomy or had low sperm count. I mean, yes, is that possible? Yeah, but it's probably not the most evidence-based conclusion as far as I can see. I've done a little bit of research on the DNA stuff, and I'm happy to try and kind of go through some of that at some point. I've said before, my mum is a biochemistry major and knows a lot about this stuff. She just doesn't like true crime, but I can ask her opinion in a bit more detail. She knows lots about DNA and things like that. But my sense is that it's not. I think that it's been oversimplified in some of the commentary on the case. I don't think that the DNA has much potential. But going back to why I don't think Kegan Kline fits the profile too is again, I always go back to statistics. I mean, they make us study so much statistics in psychology, so I'm glad I'm using it for something. But essentially, statistically, CSAM offenders and catfishers are actually very rarely engage in violent offences. They actually rarely engage in contact offences. Now, there are, of course, people who engage in contact offences and CSAM online, but it's not sort of a given pathway. It's not like it escalates from CSAM to then contact offences to then murder. That's actually quite rare. So the amount of CSAM offenders that go on to murder victims is quite a small statistic. It's not unheard of, like Rick Allen. It's not a forensic unicorn. It's very rare, though. It's not a commonplace situation. And generally when that does happen, there is a fairly significant level of grooming over time, a specific relationship between the offender and the victim. And CSAM offenders don't usually go trying to meet two young people. They go trying to isolate one person that they have formed this sort of connection with, and generally then they may reactively kill that person if that person refuses their advances, or if they're worried that person will spill the beans and they'll get in trouble. But again, then we wouldn't expect them to stage and pose a scene either.
Yeah.
That's the hallmark of an organised sadistic offender, which is only 0.3% of all murders. It's not common, but when we see a sort of signature tableau like we see here, but when we see that, it points to sadism as opposed to a reactive or, impulsive act. Hey, Mother of Dragons, nice to see you. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying it's absolutely impossible in the same way that I would say with Rick Allen. I mean, impossible probably sounds like an overstate there, but it's highly, highly unlikely for Rick. It's unlikely for Kegan to be the perpetrator too. It's not as unlikely as it is for Rick, though.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah. So if we had like a sliding scale, he'd be on the low end.
Kegan might know who did it, but he would know those people from a whole different area of their lives.
Yeah. Look, my theory around as well, if the girls did go to meet someone, the reason I go with this again is not just the Snapchat video. I just remember the other aspect of it is to do with the timeline from the Knowledge C data. The girls take quite a significant amount of time to move from where they are at 151 to where we see the picture taken at, it's at 205. And if you follow the GPS coordinates, which of course are not a direct path of what they do, because there are missing coordinates, not because anyone's hidden them, but because you only get those coordinates when the camera or an app that uses the map is employed. But essentially, it still takes them a little bit longer than we would expect. And to me, that seems consistent with, like, you know, you meet someone at the bridge, you greet each other, you have a chat, you plan what you're going to do next. I feel like there's a few little indicators in the phone data that to me suggest that the girls are meeting someone that they trust and that they plan to meet and they want to meet, and that in the 207 photo, Abby doesn't look scared or worried. So I believe whoever that is not someone like Kegan Kline, because I'm pretty sure if they met Kegan Kline and they meant to meet Anthony Shots, she's not going to be looking particularly happy in that photo.
Right.
Because no one is, it sounds terrible, but I just don't think they're willingly going to meet Kegan Kline.
No.
So I know it's hard to reconcile then where does that person go. I still wonder if there's a bit of a lure involved, like that person, I don't necessarily know that person knew what they were leading the girls to. Maybe that person got scared and ran off. I don't know, but I feel like whoever that person is, if it's not the bridge guy we see in the video, I think that they were serving the role of getting the girls to the bridge.
Well, it certainly seems like he knew how to direct them in the right direction.
Yeah.
I would be willing to think that could very well be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I get to the next part of this theory, and this is all speculative. I know I would say Daisy Asks is about evidence-based, science-based analysis of the Delphi case, but we're allowed to go into speculation too. But I will always caveat that with the fact that this isn't something that I can kind of go, well, this is firmly, more logical. But if I still think that this sort of coincidental timing, we've got the 207, 208 is the turning point, right? We get that photo where things still seem calm, and Libby's still using her phone as normal. And after that 207 Snapchat, she locks the phone suddenly and she never unlocks that phone again. We also know that at 207 is probably around the time Bridge Guy would have to appear on the bridge in order to be where he is in the Bridge Guy video, because it takes about, I think, 6 minutes to cross that bridge at a reasonable pace. He doesn't look like he's running. And then also at 207, we see that footage that has been leaked. I believe, I don't know where it came from, but of the private drive, the car that goes into the private drive and turns back out quite quickly. And we also, actually leave it at that for the moment. So if we take those pieces of information together, I just feel like there's coordination there. And I think there's that's the time where it's like, go. And I tie Rick into this because I believe my timeline of Rick is that he leaves the trails at about 2:00. And I believe that there is a lookout near the CPS. And if Rick is parked at the CPS, they know at that point that Rick has left. And Rick is the only male on the trails before that time. So he's the biggest threat to their plan, essentially. And my theory is that it's all systems go. And then whoever is going into the private drive has not obviously, but may have been, I guess, derailed by the fact that private drive has a gate and they couldn't get through that gate. And so then they had to turn back. That would also account for the 7-minute pause. When they go down the hill, there's a 7 minutes of inactivity. The phone it stops moving completely. It's also when I think it touches the cold ground. Is that bridge guy waiting with the girls, getting them to sit on the ground and be quiet while they're waiting for a car, and the car hasn't arrived because nobody has phones in that area, because we know from the digital data that there were no phones around the crime scene that were suspicious. We know that there were 3. Apparently they've been ruled out. Now, again, I'm adding up things in my head. I'm not suggesting that this is something evidence-based, but I think it's got some logic to it, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe the bridge guy's panicking now because he expected the car to be there and it's not there, and he doesn't know what to do with these girls. And so he just sits them down on the ground or whatever and tries to kind of just control them for 7 minutes until, that private drive car manages to turn around and drive back towards the cemetery area and, appears on the other side of the creek. I mean, the timing adds up.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
The math is mapping.
Yeah, exactly. And, I love my math. So I was like going how long exactly would that take? And it can add up. It can. It could definitely be about, I think, the time from the private drive to drive back around to the cemetery to get either dropped at the cemetery or park there and then walk down that hill and either cross the creek or be on the other side of the creek from Bridge Guy. I think it would probably take around the time that we see when movement starts again on the phone as well.
Yeah.
So it's always, it's all speculation. We're trying to piece together stuff. There's so many little different pieces of information, and all we can do is try and come up with things that aren't grossly illogical and, things that just don't make sense. So we can't say, Abby and Libby then walked across the bridge and to the CPS or something. Well, that's illogical. There's no data that supports that. But if we can come up with theories that don't have obvious illogical aspects to them, then I think they're fair game, right?
Yeah. Here's how I see it. I don't know who did it, but I'd be willing to trust everything that you have researched, everything that everybody else that I have spoken to has researched. Everything tells me it's not Rick.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you for sure. I can't give you documentation of who it was.
No. And I think it's actually, I don't like to over speculate on that too, because, this is people's lives essentially.
Right.
And even if some of these people might be doing not good things in their lives, that still doesn't mean that, they need to be put in the sadistic murderer category, right, without there being enough to back that up. So, I'll speculate and kind of have little hypotheses, but I wouldn't hang my hat on them. But absolutely, I'm with you, Dee. I would hang my hat on the fact that Rick is innocent. There's actually now, there's literally no doubt in my mind. And I feel very confident of the fact. And if you can, someone can provide me with something that absolutely places him as a murderer, I'd be willing to then say, well, let's study him, because he's a really, he's an unheard of rarity, and we should be studying him because, he is one of the most sophisticated criminals in history.
Yep.
Because he's so good at hiding his deviance and acting the part of a vulnerable, internalizing man when he's actually not any of those things. Like, gosh, the level of deception that he's capable of. Yeah, I mean, it would win an Academy Award then.
Yeah, he's fooled everybody who knows him really well. His mother, his child, his wife that he's known since high school.
Psychiatrists,
right?
Psychologists, because even Dr. Waller, whatever we might say about Dr. Waller, she didn't say that he had sadistic traits either, did she? Or narcissistic traits. Nobody. In fact, they put down dependent personality disorder. And you know what? I tend to step back from that. I think it's more nuanced than that. But if we want to go with the two psychologists that saw him, okay, they say dependent personality disorder. Well, that is negatively correlated with a crime like this. Mm-hmm. Someone with dependent personality disorder isn't going to do a sadistic crime. The whole point of dependent personality disorder is I rely upon other people for instruction and, you know, to make decisions for me. And the whole thing of sadist is I rely upon being powerful and dominating others. They're the opposites. It's ridiculous. So, you know, even if you want to kind of lean on the fact of the state side, well, the state's psychologist also did not indicate that he was a sadist. She took a confession from him that he committed this crime as an impulsive act of fear. That's not what that crime scene looks like. And nobody could convince me otherwise.
Nope.
So, and nobody can convince anyone otherwise. I mean, nobody looks at that scene and goes, oh, yeah, except people who I do believe, I have to say this, have confirmation bias. They want to believe Rick's guilty, and so they're going to reason away 3% of the bodies being covered in sticks and positions that the bodies lay in that match two tarot cards as just coincidence. And you know, that the clothing was, you know, that there's some functional reason why the clothing was swapped, you know, and that's the thing. They're relying upon illogical reasoning to reason away that this matches Rick's confession. You know, we know as well, Brad Weber's van, there's no way it was on the drive at 2:25. It's not possible. So, you know, I think that we've got to remember that, you know, the crime scene is really important here, and experts have agreed that those sticks don't look random. You know, yes, I don't 100% agree with the whole 100% ritual aspect, but I think it's pseudo ritual. I think it's symbolism.
Yes.
But even their own crime scene investigators did not say those sticks were concealment.
Right.
Because it's ludicrous. Of course they're not concealment.
Yeah.
And anyone who says, well, it's concealing from a particular angle on the private drive, like what? So did he have a Polaroid camera and he from the private drive, he looked at the angle of the crime scene, took a picture, and then double checked on the picture. Does that conceal it enough? And also realistically, you don't need to conceal the bodies that well anyway, because he had plenty of time to get away. No one was going to see those bodies. No one did see those bodies for many hours. So, you know, I just think it's trying to twist the story to fit with the fact that Rick is guilty. And maybe that gives people a sense of peace, because then they're like, the world makes sense to me. And
exactly.
And it doesn't make sense. See, the thing is, an organized sadistic murder is 0.3, like we're looking at tiny percentages. And so would it be nicer to believe that it's just a man who had a midlife crisis and cracked? Well, that feels more understandable. But no, women having midlife crises don't crack and decide to commit a sadistic crime. This is not a triggered crime. Like, yes, there could be a trigger in a sadist's life, like in the case of Russell Williams, where it triggers him to escalate his sadistic behavior. But it doesn't, a midlife crisis, which we don't even know that Rick was having. I mean, he was having a whole life crisis, realistically. Right. He's been unwell his whole life. But, you know, the death of his brother-in-law or his daughter moving to college, like, realistically, in terms of traumas, that's sad. Of course, we were all talking about it. Most of us by midlife have probably had a crisis like that. or money, as some of us have had, that doesn't lead reliably to a crime like this. If you said to me he got into a drunken brawl and, coward punched someone and they died, sure, okay, midlife crisis could lead to that. If he said he had a midlife crisis and cheated on his wife and then killed her so he could be with a new woman, I don't like that story. It's not very nice. It's still rare. Think of Chris Watts, but it still makes more sense. But that's not what this is. And the thing is, you can't make sense of a sadist because the majority of us are not sadistic. So how on earth are we ever going to understand how a sadist operates?
Yeah. Well, if you believe Rick Allen is guilty and you happen to be a family member, well, he's in prison now, you don't have to worry that it could happen to your other granddaughter.
Yep. Yep.
And Becky Patty herself said, I saw her on TV say it.
Yeah.
We were afraid we were going to lose her too. She wasn't afraid necessarily that she would be murdered, but she was terrified.
Yeah.
And I get that. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I lost somebody important. Now, every time my kids leave the house,
Yep.
I think about it. I'm like, what if somebody's just not careful?
Yeah. Yeah. It shakes your worldview, doesn't it?
It does.
I think you've raised such a good point. I remember I lost my granddad. I was pregnant with my first son, and I had my little niece. She was 2 at the time, and my sister and my mom, it was overseas, so they had to go overseas and help my grandma and sort it out. And because I was pregnant, I didn't fly, and we also have so many pets between the homes. So I moved into mum's house, looked after the pets, and had my niece with me, which actually helped me cope with my grief. And I remember that I think it was a week or 5 days that I had her, I would wake up every few hours and I'd check she was breathing.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden that whole loss framework had been activated in me. And obviously I'd already lost my dad at that point too. So I'd had these 2 sudden losses of family members and then also losses of pets and things like that, which affect me very greatly because I love my pets like family. And I remember, just suddenly everything felt unsafe. Once you activate, we call that a schema, a pattern of experience or thinking, then we see everything through that for a period of time, at least until it kind of rests again.
If I was her or Abby's mom, I would be so on edge that's not sustainable. Like my mind would break if somebody wasn't found responsible.
Of course.
So whatever the story was that they told me, I'd be like, okay, good enough. Sounds plausible.
Yep. I'm so with you. And I think this is such a good point to raise too, Dee, because I see a lot of negativity towards the family saying they didn't, they're not trying to find out the truth and things like that. And I meant to make a video on this at some point because I think exactly what you're saying now. I think for some people, for a large proportion of people, the only way to have peace is to feel like there's been some conclusion to the story, and they don't want to ask too many questions because if it's not true, then they won't have their peace. And so I think this is a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's not a sense that they didn't love their children.
No, not at all.
Their loved ones, not at all. I mean, you can see it. I mean, the grief particularly in Anna Williams, and I know we've talked about this before, Dee and Becky Patty, like they are devastated. Like they are broken. And as a mum, like all I see is a mum, I mean, in Becky, she's a grandma, so it's the same thing. It's the close connection, and they just look so broken. I think Becky Patty, I didn't realize until recently, she had breast cancer, didn't she? I think, following the death.
Pretty sure that's what she had. Yeah.
And, we know that there are links between, the intensity of stress and pain in our lives and these sorts of things. I mean, I know that for me, we were talking earlier about risk factors for breast cancer. That was probably my only risk factor, was a high level of significant stress, particularly in the few years preceding the breast cancer. So yeah, I think we shouldn't say, well, they don't care, they're not trying hard enough to find the offenders, or they're guilty of something because of that. I think they just need to be able to have some closure, and they don't want to think too much about, whether that's true or not true.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, gosh, lots of thoughts today. Thank you so much, Dee, for joining me. I think it's been a great conversation.
Yeah, it's been, I won't say fun, but it's been cathartic.
Yeah, we've talked about so much. I think this is one of the longest live streams I've done. I think I've probably only other time I've done one this long was with Ash, when we were talking about Kathy Allen's interview, and we chatted for a long time. It's really nice to have someone to kind of bounce ideas off and talk out loud about. I think this case just brings that out in all of us. We want to be able to just talk about it and just hypothesize and
yeah. And it's when people start saying, this is my opinion, but it's also the facts, and that just shuts everything down.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid because I'm just thinking out loud. Calm down.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think, look, I think we have to always be open to each other's interpretations. I think, yes, there are some interpretations, again, that are going to hold more weight than others because they might be based more on logical kind of facts and evidence. But, yeah, we have to be open to all perspectives. And I think the people who believe Rick's guilty, I don't think you can say I haven't at least entertained some of those ideas. But I do always have to come back to this point of but you're hypothesizing something about a man that we have not seen before. So the same as my story, if I'm insisting my dogs speak French, stop listening to my channel because it sounds absurd, right?
Right.
It's unheard of. And so if my channel was all about, let me prove to you my dogs speak French, and I'm not showing you my dog speaking French, then you should probably stop watching my channel, right? And I know people will go, well, it's not the same thing. It is. Saying that, Rick Allen committed the crime in the way that he confessed to Dr. Wala, and the crime scene ended up like that, is literally illogical. Maybe not quite as absurd as my dog speaking French, but it's bordering on that because it's unheard of. So yeah, I mean, again, if people want to give me a case, I always say this: if you can give me a case of a crime scene that is posed and has those sadistic elements, but was actually the result of a person who got spooked during a sexual assault, or something even close to that, something more reactive that ends up with a crime scene like that, I will look at that case and we can look at it together. But nobody ever sends me a case that matches that, So
right.
if you want to say this theory is wrong, then absolutely, please give me some evidence. Whereas generally speaking, if I'm going to say I don't agree with that, I'm going to back it up with evidence, statistics, cases, history, not just I don't agree. I don't think that's the case. And I know we're not here in a court of law on YouTube, but I think if we're going to be really insistent of something, we need to back it up with at least some evidence.
Yeah. And our opinions about law enforcement or the lawyers or whatever, just because we don't like them from what we've seen of them, that's none of my concern. Yeah. I don't particularly like some of them either, but that's not going to get us anywhere in court. That's not going to help Rick. So sitting there reading court documents for hours at a time for the sole purpose of mocking the people who are speaking, what a waste of time. It just makes you look like a petty little man.
I mean, I think, and also because I think as well, sometimes I hear people mocking experts
or women, whatever. I just don't know any women who do that.
And that, well, I mean, I've heard, and again, this is not about calling specific people out, but, you know, sometimes people we get like, that's just it. That person's just an effing idiot, or they deliberately did this. It's like, but you don't have proof of that. You know, so I will disagree with, you know, an expert's opinion, as you all know. I've disagreed with Stacey Eldridge. I've disagreed with Cecil. I've disagreed with, to some extent, with Westcott and obviously Wala. But I think the fact is, I'm not saying, well, they're an effing idiot. They're so stupid. And particularly not in areas where I don't actually have the expertise. Like, so I wouldn't do that even in psychology. But with say, Cecil and Eldridge, I cannot say they're an effing idiot when I don't even have the skills. But I can say I don't actually agree with their conclusion, and this is why. That's a thesis. It's not, you know, it's not a personal attack. And I think yesterday that happened, you know, in the chat, people were saying, you know, you can't attack Kathy Shank. And I'm like, I'm not attacking. I'm not saying she's a terrible old woman. Like, that would be attacking her. That's a horrible thing to say. And I would never say that about someone, because
I'm
I don't
that
think
the story that she's giving is implausible.
Exactly.
And these are the reasons why it's implausible.
Exactly. And yes, I know, you know, we have our little odd joke about Holman or Kegan Kline, but realistically, the reason I don't like Jerry Holman's actions is because of his actions. It's not how he looks. It's not how he speaks. He can be smarmy, whatever. I don't like smarmy people, but it's what he says that's the problem. You know, what he's done that's the problem. And you know, and I think if we can pull out examples and say, well, this is why I don't trust this person, not just simply say, well, they must be wrong because I think they're wrong. So I think mocking, you know, mocking some of the experts is I don't think it's fair, because not every forensic scientist that worked on this case is a hired gun for the state or the defense. They're like, a lot of people here are genuinely doing their job. Are some people incompetent or deliberately doing the wrong thing? Perhaps, but it's not everybody. Like, we can't assume that every person in law enforcement or in ISP forensic labs is all, you know, teamed up to be a terrible person.
Right. Critter Mama, it's Dieter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, have I hidden? I think it's because your name's not showing up on the screen. That's probably why, because I've still got this trad thing. Here we go. There you go. Now you can see.
I was going to say, I'm
everyone's like, who
now.
I saw Anders comment, and I'm like, are they thinking Dieter is not Daisy the dog? I know that's not what Anders was saying. I'm just making a joke there. No, Dieter, you're not. But I did used to call Daisy DB, so you could be. I'm not saying you're a female dog.
my real initials are CM, so I always tell Critter Mama, hey, you're my initial twin.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I never get the abbreviations. Like, Mother of Dragons is mod, and I'm like, why is everyone just calling her a mod? Like, is she a mod? Like, I didn't know she was. Even if she's a mod, why are we doing that? We don't just call the mods. And then I realized, oh, Mother of Dragons. I get it.
I don't. Back to what I was saying. I don't have any issue with reading court documents. It's when we're only doing it to make fun of somebody.
Like, yeah, and I think it's the mocking. It's like, yeah, I mean, a little bit of mocking and side-eyeing is totally understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, Critter Mama thinks it's do you think it's Diana? DD is Diana. No, it's Dita. Totally different voice.
Yes, very, especially today.
I think we pranked a lot of people. They didn't realize who it was, and it was my fault because I hid your name. And you need to get an avatar, G, if you're gonna come on the screen and have a little picture.
If this was ever at a normal time of day, I would brush my hair for the occasion.
And I throw it on you at the last minute too,
But
D.
I've been awake all morning, all night.
But I so appreciate it. Like, I think everyone will agree Dee's an awesome co-host, I suppose, if we want to call it that. Like, it was really good to have you on. I think you've got a really balanced view of things, and again, a really nice manner as well, like a fair manner, not being overly indignant towards, people and mocking, and, the whole vibe of this channel is meant to be warmth and and
Jamie!
fairness and integrity. Hey, Jamie. Do you know what I love about the community? I'm sure this isn't just the Delphi community, but how many cats and dogs are people's pictures? I just love it.
I should take a picture of my bird.
Yes.
I have a cockatoo. She's sleeping right now, but normally she would be out there yelling something because
I love
she's hungry. She usually yells my my oldest son's name.
Oh, cute.
Jackson!
Oh my goodness. Imagine what a bird would say. If I had a bird, imagine the things it'd be saying.
You know what? Every now and then, the bird, her name is Bo, and every time Bo is upset by something that's happening, usually it's the kitten runs past her, and she does not like the kitten, and she will yell a bad word. And I laugh.
Oh, really?
I look at one of the kids, I'm like, did she just say? They're like, yes, that's what she said. I'm sorry, but that's funny.
Talking of pets, this dog that we are looking after over the summer, over the Christmas period, he stole Delilah the cat, and I got that off him, and he has chewed, oh gosh, I wasn't watching, he's chewed Steve from Minecraft's face off. Oh no, I'm gonna have to hide that before the kids wake up.
Uh-oh.
Yes, he's just harmed Steve, and it doesn't look like it's repairable. His whole face is just fluff now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Did I tell you my bird is pink?
Oh my goodness.
She is. She's got one bright yellow feather under her wing. Other than that, she's just pink.
Oh, that's like my perfect pet, a little pink pet.
I'll fly her over.
Yeah, my best friend actually has a bird, and they only got it last year and or the year before. Now, but yeah, and I hadn't met it until recently, and because we usually meet, like we go out places, and we went to her house, and I was like, oh my gosh, this bird is so cute. It was doing peekaboo with us, and that, oh my goodness, I've never had a pet bird. Very cute.
Bo she will, if you give her an emery board, she will file her own nails.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that funny? I got her from a friend because my friend moved in with her mom, who was really, really old, and the mom was terrified of the bird. So we took her here, and I said, whenever it's appropriate, absolutely come and get her back. Well, her mom recently died just before Christmas, and she called me shortly after, and she's like, I can't uproot her again. Will you keep her? I'm like, yeah, she's fam now.
Aww.
Yeah. So she just lives around the corner. I'm like, anytime, stop by. If I'm talking to her previous owner on the phone and she can hear her voice, she starts yelling, hey, like, don't forget me, I'm over here. Yeah. She's a smarty pants.
Oh. Andis is asking, do we have wild cockatoos? We do, actually. I think there was a video that I did walking through the park trying to recreate the bridge guy angles, and I think I got some cockatoos on that one. And then when I did the live with Cryptex a couple of weeks ago, we had kookaburras laughing in the background. That was when I was on holiday. That. It was really cool, right?
On it because I know that song, Kookaburra.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, we have the sulfur-crested cockatoos mostly, so the white ones with the bright orange kind of mohawk. We have galahs, so they're pink and grey, and they're usually in little pairs. And we have kookaburras, which are beautiful. Kookaburras are just the cutest. They're like little, I don't know, they've got these like fluffy, cute bodies, and they really do laugh, as you heard on the video. So yeah. Yeah, we have cockatoos every day. They're actually a nuisance as well, and they're very loud. They go and they steal fruit. So we used to have passion fruit trees next to our pool. Not a good idea because they would pick off the passion fruit, tear them open with their beak, eat the inside, and then chuck the rest of the passion fruit into the pool. So,
does it ever get cold where you are?
It does. Yeah, so probably the coldest we'd get in winter. I mean, would probably be maybe 10 degrees, 8 degrees, maybe Celsius. So not super freezing, like we'd never get snow. But then probably from about October, right the way, maybe sometimes late September, October, definitely all the way through to about April. we get pretty good weather. We're now at the peak heat season where we get like these extreme days. But yeah, like we can use our pool from late October all the way through to usually early April. This is pretty good, right?
Yeah. Here in Canada, we get really, really hot, but we have a holiday called May 24. So like the weekend of the 24th, or really close to it. And people open their pools then, but nobody wants to swim in them because they're still really cold.
Oh, yeah.
But by early September, they're closed again. It's not very long. And I'm in the southernmost tip of Ontario. So it's parallel to the northernmost points of California.
Why?
Right?
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because I think our weather's probably quite similar. Like I have family in San Francisco, and our weather here is quite similar to that.
Ours is not, but we are so much further east that it doesn't really matter what the southern tip is. It gets darn cold here.
No, I don't like the cold.
Yeah, but we don't get a ton of snow usually. So we had one really bad snowstorm on Christmas Eve 2 or 3 years ago, but we don't normally get that. We get cold and bitter cold. It hurts your skin cold.
Oh gosh, yeah. I couldn't like here when it drops under 20 degrees, even at 20 degrees. Like sometimes we'll have these massively hot days, like 40 degrees. There'll be a massive thunderstorm and it'll drop to 20, and I'm talking Celsius for the US people, and I will just be like complaining. I'll be like, it's not fair, I don't like this weather. And I remember so I grew up in London like until I was 9, so it's been a long time since I moved here, but I had a friend come and visit, and I'm like wearing a big jumper and she's like sunbaking on the beach, and I'm like, this is cold. Like anything under 25, I'm not very happy. But when we're getting below 20, I'm like, this is freezing. I can't handle it.
When my kids went to elementary school and they still had recess, they had to go out for recess until it was -10 Celsius.
What?
At which point they were mandated to stay in because -10 recess was so long that they could have gotten frostbite. I'm like, well, that sucks to be you, that you have to go out when it's -9 because I'm not leaving the house. It's too cold.
My gosh, I think for me, even if I go out at like 5 degrees, I'm like, my ears feel like they're going to freeze off. Like, I'm like, no, I need like earmuffs or like a hat or something. Like, my goodness, I don't even know. I mean, it's fun maybe for me, like I like, my kids usually like to go to the snow like once a year or something. And I love it for a few days, but then I'm like, nah, like I would way prefer the heat any day.
Yeah. If it snows on Christmas Eve and it melts on Boxing Day, I'm good. I don't need any more snow than that.
Christopher, where in Australia are you? Because I think I can't remember if Christopher told me. He says the heat gets unbearable. We get a few Aussies coming in these days, which is interesting. So we're getting a real mixture of different countries being represented here, which is awesome.
Kelly says, is this your friend that was in Canada and it was -22? That is not unusual. We get really, really cold, but not a ton of snow.
Oh
but the further, like, you don't have to go terribly north of here, and they get tons of snow and super duper cold. Like they're I think just last weekend they had a massive snowstorm, 4 feet in one snowfall, so probably over a couple of days. Crazy snow.
I can't even imagine minus. Like, I think the closest I would have got, I think when I went to New York, goodness, what month would it have been? Years ago. And I remember it was minus something, but it was like maybe -2 or something. And I was like, oh, this is freezing. I can't believe it. Like, yeah.
This is insanity.
Yeah. I'm like, who lives like this? And then when you say like -22, I'm like, what? Like, how is that even possible? Antis is from Sweden, so -6 there today. Goodness.
How are you people still alive?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I want to move to like further north. The only reason I wouldn't is because I hate snakes. But otherwise, yeah, I want to live in the tropics. Like, I would not complain if I got a job in like Singapore or something. Like, I love the heat.
Yeah, I like the Dominican. Been there. Mexico was a little hot for my liking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I had a choice of where to live in the world, it would be the Greek islands. That's where I want to live.
Oh yeah.
Best place in the world.
Yeah, I would totally go there.
Yeah. And
I have one thing left on my bucket list, though. I want to ride a real elephant across some form of water in Africa. Preferably
I want to go to Africa.
Ivory Coast. That would be cool. But that's it. Everything else on my bucket list, I'm done.
You've done really well. You've done well, Dee. I want to take my kids on safari. My dad was born in Kenya. And he used to talk, like, have amazing stories. I said to my boys, like, I always like live as though I've got 15 years left, which I have more than that, hopefully. But I'm like, I need to, before I reach that 15-year mark, have done that safari, because that would make me sad. When I was going through the cancer, I remember that was one thought that went through my head. Going in for a scan one day and like looking at some like pictures they had on the wall of travel destinations. I'm like, I haven't been to all the places I want to go to yet.
Yeah,
I need more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kuna Mama says, had a dog for 17 years. Oh, that's gorgeous. My oldest dog would have probably been about 17. That was Minky. He passed away in 2018. He was a rescue dog whose first 3 years of his life were terrible. We got him he had like burn marks and he was emaciated, but we rehabilitated him, brought him back to life, and he lived till 17. So
the last dog we had, she just died not quite a year ago yet. She you know those prison programs where they train dogs? Yes. She came from there.
Amazing.
At one of the prisons in Michigan. Yeah. She was the best. Look, she was the bestest girl in the world. But she had to have been almost 16. She died in March. Yeah. She died in March. In July, she would have been 16.
Unfortunately, Daisy Boo passed away before she turned 10. Actually, she passed away. She was 9, and she basically age 8 or 8.5. It was actually this time of the year. It was early January. She had a seizure after swimming in the pool. She loved swimming in the pool, and they found out that she had an inoperable intracranial, what do they call it, glioma, so a brain tumor. And we paid, I think it was about 20 grand. We did the state-of-the-art stereotactic radiotherapy, but unfortunately it potentially could have bought her another couple of years, and then they could have redone it, but she just didn't seem to respond to it. So she left us. I think we had eight months, but it wasn't the same. She was a very active, full of life dog, and the steroids and all the horrible stuff that she had to be on just really didn't allow her to be herself. So it was really sad. It was really sad. She didn't get to have the long life that I'd hoped for her.
Yeah.
But she's in peace now. She's with her granddad, chasing butterflies, and we always think she visits us. We always say she visits us as a dragonfly, this dragonfly that flies over our pool every time we're out there. And if you're like, where's Daisy? The dragonfly flies across, and we're like, okay, there's Daisy.
Just stopping in.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that I get to use her name on my channel, right? She was so important to me, and she gets to live on. Well, I think we might bring this to a close. Goodness, 3 hours. That's definitely my longest live stream.
I have an appointment coming up soon.
I was going to say, you told me you had 4 hours, and it was about 4 hours ago, Dee.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending the early morning hours with us. Amazing. I mean, it's 12:15 here. Like it's way past my bedtime, but it's holidays, so we'll get by. The kids can go on the iPad, and I can have a sleep in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, so nice to talk with you, Dee, and so nice to talk with the chat. And yeah, I'm sure we'll have some more discussions over the next little while. Dee, you're definitely welcome anytime. And later in the week, I will be finally recording with Josh to talk about the NELOS stuff again as well. So I'll keep repeating stuff until like it sticks. So you're going to hear more about NELOS. I'm a broken record. Don't forget the cold shock theory and the lost tip narrative. I have all my little catchphrases. So yeah, get back into that. But yeah, Dee, we should have another chat sometime soon too.
Sounds good.
Thanks everybody in the chat. It's like so many amazing people that have stuck with us through the 3 hours. Kelly, you were the first one here and you're still here now. Really appreciate you. And can't wait for Kelly to get her Ethernet cable because then she can come and have a chat with us too.
Yes.
We'll do girls' night.
Yeah. We'll get some accents going.
Oh, yes. Kelly's accent's very cool too, right?
Love it.
Okay, so we'll have the Aussie, the Canadian, and the British. So we need an American, I think. And then, of course, every other country. But these are the ones that are most represented, I suppose, on on the channel. 50% of my subscribers are American at least. I think it may be more. So, yeah, anyone who wants to be our American panel member. Well, Diana could be, but we can't lock her in.
Yeah.
Oh, Kelly's Welsh. There you go.
Ooh.
Yeah, we've got like so many different accents.
Do you know what my favorite accent is, real quick before we go?
Yeah.
Israeli women.
Oh, okay.
I love that accent.
There you go. I'm trying to think. Israeli women. What does that sound like?
Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I'm sure of it. Like I've heard. I had friends who were Israeli. I'm trying to think. How do they sound? I'm gonna listen out. Oh, look, Critter Mama. She says she's gonna come and beat. She says maybe, but you know we've locked her in now. I'm going to screenshot that. Critter Mama can come and be our representative from the US and particularly from Indiana. Perfect.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And I heard some mention about prison here too. You'd have the what's happening in Indiana prisons. Excellent. All right, you're on deck.
Yeah, that's it, Critter Mama. You're locked in. You signed the contract. It's done. I've screenshotted it. And if you don't show up, I will send, my lawyers on you. It'll be Nicholas McClelland. Had to put a joke in there, guys.
Perfect.
I mean, I won't labour the point, but people say that I'm friends with Nicholas McClelland because I like his theory because I said Rick Parks is a CPS. I'm like, come on, guys, that's not anything to do with me being friends with Nicholas McClelland. But anyway,
nope, Dave. Nobody knows what the crowns mean. I don't.
No.
Nobody seems to know.
No. All right, guys. Well, have a great day for the people who are waking up, and I will have a great sleep. It's super hot, though. I don't know how I'm going to sleep. I've got to get my air conditioning going, and I think I've got a sweaty boy in my bed because my kids sneak in, and I've got these two silly dogs. He's still got Steve in his mouth, by the way, guys. He has killed Steve. There is a crime scene behind me.
Poor Steve.
I should take a picture for you guys. Anyway, have a great day, guys. Love and light. And thanks so much, Steve.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.